Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker, and welcome to So Wrong It's Right, a panel show about things which have gone wrong, presented by one. It's a programme listing everything that's wrong with the world, basically just like the news, with a slightly jauntier theme tune and 100% less George Alagaya. Victory can often become defeat and vice versa. In fact, success and failure are so closely related, it's almost impossible to tell which Miller band is which. This is a show in which failure is actively applauded, and so with that in mind, please give a big hand to tonight's guests, Rufus Hound, Holly Walsh and Mark Watson. The first round is called Wrong Time, Wrong Place, and in it I'll be asking my guests to delve into their own calamitous pasts in an attempt to out-wrong each other with stories from their own miserable lives. I'm going to give a point to whoever's failure strikes me as the best. This week's theme is parties. I've got a friend called Mike, and just like the song, you'll always find him in the kitchen at parties, because he's an egg whisk. One of the big problems about going to a party is having to drive home. I went to a do recently where the hosts were so concerned about this, they made us all toss our car keys into a bowl on the table. And then they insisted everyone stay the night. Although, come to think of it, they did call a cab for me. Rufus Hound, what is the worst thing you've done at a party?
Well, the worst thing I've ever done at a party was set my hands on fire.
How? I mean, surely you need one hand to set the other hand on fire.
Not if you've got help. Basically, there was a period of my life where, as a party trick, I would take a small amount of lighter fluid, put it in a small pool in the middle of my hand, set light to it. What happens is the lighter fluid starts to burn, you take the other hand and you clap out the flame. Having seen this one or two times, people were getting bored of it, so it was really time for me to up the stakes. And I had an idea. What I would do, of course, was cup both hands together, have somebody else pour the lighter fluid in, quite a pool, then open my hands, the lit lighter fluid would drop to the floor, I would clap out my hands with my hands, thus done, finished.
What could go wrong?
Well, what went wrong was the bloke who was going to light it for me then feared what might go wrong. And so, as I'm trying to convince him it will be fine, the lighter fluid was leaking to the back of my hands. So, when he eventually did light it, I opened my hands, the fireball did indeed drop to the floor, but in doing so set light to the back of my hands. Now, as you try to clap out the front of your hands, if all that's doing is igniting the back of your hands, then rapidly you get yourself into a situation where as you clap out the back of your hands, that reignites the front of your hands.
So you were stuck in a terrible cycle.
Yeah.
There's almost an argument for not putting lighter fluid on your hands in the first place.
I'm pretty sure this is just an exploration of stupidity.
Well, what I was thinking, Charlie, was that initially the notion of setting fire to your hands was so abstract that it imbued with it heroism. Then what became apparent was that there was a very good reason heroes don't set their hands on fire.
But you're quite an erudite chap. I can't believe you felt the need to impress people by setting fire to parts of your body.
If you'd met the 16-year-old me, Charlie Brooker, you would realise that was a man who was just waiting for a moustache to replace the personality that was missing.
Holly Walsh, what about you?
Well, I get invited to a lot of fancy dress parties. Just give me a cheer if you hate fancy dress parties.
Yeah.
Okay, give me a cheer if you like them. Half enough. See, I hate them, but I get very competitive about it. Like, Halloween parties are the worst. My friend holds one every year. And one year I think what is the best costume you could go as, I went in a long white tube, like a full-length white tube, and I cut a hole out just where my face is, and I painted 2 blue lines across the front, and I went as a pregnancy scare. But one year, for this same fancy dress party, I set off in good time to get there, and when I arrived, it was in a different location to normal. I arrived, and I knocked on the door, and I was dressed as a Grim Reaper, and it turned out I'd got the wrong address. And an old woman opened it, and all I could do was apologise for being early, which is... exactly the wrong thing to say in that situation.
I mean, you could be fulfilling some sort of public service, though, presumably doing that. Did you have a scythe and everything? Did you have?
I had the works. I'd really gone for it.
Did she scream, cry out?
No, she didn't. She just sort of accepted it, which...
Well, that's what I find. When you turn up on an old person's door and tell them it's time for death, they just mutely accept it.
Yeah.
Although, in fairness, this was just an old woman. It wasn't an old mental woman. She was clearly aware it was Halloween. So she opens the door and there's somebody dressed as Grim Reaper. All she's thinking to herself is, oh, well, that's probably just somebody going to a Halloween party who's arrived at the wrong house.
This is the worst heckle I've ever had. I would hate you to be in an audience for any comedy game.
Your story is inconsequential.
Yeah. A horse walks into a bar. How? How did they allow the horse walk into the bar?
Mark Watson, what is your party catastrophe?
I let myself down at a party when I was about 10, and it was, I just wasn't getting enough attention, basically, for my money. Girls weren't really talking to me. As I say, I was 10, but I was still old enough to be sort of insecure about it. So I thought, what I need is a conversation starter. So I began a story that my dad had been killed in a car crash. It was absolutely without substance. I got the idea from the fact that someone at school had been involved in a car accident recently, and it got read out in assembly, and everyone was talking to them at break time, and they became almost like a sort of folk hero within the school. So at this party, finding myself sort of low on attention, I play the dead dad card. But it was very short-term thinking, because for one thing, my dad was going to be picking me up from the party. And he was due in about 2 hours. So almost as soon as I said it, I thought, this is an untenable lie. Plus, I knew it was all right among the kids, because they believed it. But if the guy was called Lucio, whose party it was, if his mum and dad were told, then obviously they'd know that I was lying. And so as soon as I'd said it, I thought, I've told one of the most stupid lies of my life today. I mean, it worked for about half an hour, because I did get everyone was talking to me, and girls were sort of hugging me and things. But I knew it was a fool's paradise. I knew pretty soon I was going to be in all sorts of trouble.
But what? I mean, presumably when he turned up, did they think he was a ghost, or I mean, what?
I had to do what they call a humiliating climb down. In those days, there were no mobiles, of course, so I could have texted my dad and said, to all intents and purposes, you were dead. And my dad's a very easygoing bloke; he would have gone with it. But even if I said it to him now, he'd say, "Fair enough, well, I've had a good innings." But
as I understand, but what appalls me about this story, apart from the fact that you pretended a parent had died, it seems to me, to win the affections of some 10-year-old girls. Which
but let's not forget I was 10 at the time. Just in case anyone's just tuned in, missed my story but heard that bit. Yeah.
I don't recall ever needing icebreakers at a child's party. It's all organised. It's all sit here, play pass the parcel, look at the bloody children's entertainer, let's play Lucky Dip. There's no conversation over cocktails. It's not like a two Ronnies sketch when you go to a child's party.
I've got a feeling, looking back, that was an over-serious child, yeah. I think I maybe, while other people were going thinking, hope I win the pass the parcel, I was thinking, now, what are my openers?
That's, you're all feeble. So I've got a choice basically between, Rufus setting his hands on fire, Holly turning up and basically convincing an old woman she died, or Mark pretending his own father died to win favour at a pathetic child's party. I am actually I'm going to give you a point. I'm going to award the point to Holly.
Yes.
Now, our next round is called Do Your Worst. It's a test of my guests' capacity for creative wrongdoing. This week I've asked them to pitch me a terrible idea for a new soap opera. Some soap opera characters stick around so long they seem like real people. Ian Beale, for instance, feels like a close personal friend I've wanted to murder for 20 years. Soaps often employ gimmicks to keep themselves fresh. Last year EastEnders did its first live episode, and later this year Emmerdale plans to introduce a special three-dimensional character. The best soaps tackle issues. Coronation Street details the post-industrial transformation of northern communities. EastEnders traces the changing socio-cultural demographic of London's East End, and Hollyoaks fearlessly confronts what happens when 9 attractive teenage girls throw a foam party. It's so important sometimes I can scarcely look away. Holly Walsh, what's your soap opera idea?
Well, I genuinely think the worst soap opera ever actually exists, which is Doctors. I don't know if you've ever seen this. This is for people who find the plot lines of Casualty too taxing. So, my idea for the worst ever soap opera is called, instead of EastEnders, it's called No Enders. Every sort of plot line just peters out. Nothing really happens. It's basically a lot of cockneys getting halfway through a story and then getting distracted. So they'll be like, you heard about what happened to Janine? Yeah. No, what happened to her? Oh, I don't... What, is that a bird? That's it.
But eventually,
just
surely...
goings on.
The thing is, you'd think that would destroy tension, but eventually, surely, as a viewer, you'd start to wonder what was going to possibly distract them next, and you'd start getting into it, like a prisoner being amused by his own toes.
But that's like...
For example.
That'll be the quote they'll use on it. This is the equivalent of a prisoner being amused by his own toes.
I've had worse reviews.
So it would just be the worst soap opera ever, because all the kind of things that you'd get in a soap opera, like cliffhangers and storylines and things, just wouldn't mean anything.
Drama, none of that.
Drama, excitement.
So it would just be... I mean, I suppose that is the one advantage. I mean, yeah, at least life ends. So it would just carry on. That's the one good thing. If you're just tuning in, that is the one good thing about life. It ends. It definitely ends. What am I saying? I can't tell people that. Give them false hope. Okay, so no, I don't know what I'm talking about. I've gone down some psychodramatic hole in my head here.
Where weirdly you seem to have implied that some people might live forever.
Not my dad, though. He's gone.
Mark, what's your big idea for a soap?
Firstly, I'm just, you would genuinely sort of seem quite shocked and appalled at my party story. Because I'd sort of invoked the fictional death of my dad, and yet you've been sort of... most of this show has just been about your desire for life to end. Partly your own life, and sometimes you imply all human life. So the thought that I could make you feel like I'd made the tone too bleak is pretty alarming, really. It's true that I think been a lot of medical soaps. Doctors is a famous one just because of the extraordinarily untense atmosphere that they create, where basically it starts with someone climbing up a ladder saying something like, I always climb up ladders, nothing ever happens really. And pretty much, I'll just ride this horse, I've never ridden a horse before, shouldn't think anything will go wrong. So basically as soon as someone does something on doctors, they'll soon be very badly injured. And the same sort of thing with ER, and there's been a lot of medical, but we don't see much of the people at the fringes of the medical profession. So for me, opticians deserve their own soap. I can't understand why this interesting area of life has not been exploited. And I think, you know, too much in soaps is all like, oh, broken marriage, this, friendship, that, blah, blah, blah. For me, there would be none of this personal life business. It would all be about the varifocals and the bifocals. It would all be about the glasses. So in your average episode, someone would come in, do an eye test, they'd then get a prescription, and a couple of days later they'd come back and pick up the glasses. You don't need anything else.
To be fair, that does sound better than The Archers.
That's a very dangerous thing to say in a Radio 4 recording.
It does. I mean, everyone shouts in The Archers. It's just full of farmers shouting in cupboards. That's what it sounds like. Rufus, you're...
Well, I think I can provide some much-needed excitement into this. I give you Priestenders. It's a soap opera set in the Vatican. Instead of Albert Square, there's St Peter's Square. Instead of the Queen Vic, there's the Sistine Chapel. And instead of low-level crime and an endless string of marital infidelity, there's magic cannibalism, meddling in the affairs of the state, and an officially sanctioned policy of covering up child abuse.
So it's a controversial soap?
Not as controversial as Opticians.
Now, I know what many of you are thinking. You're thinking there aren't many strong female roles. Well, I don't think I can be blamed for that.
So, what's going to happen? Is it going to be... I mean, EastEnders always has a traditionally bleak Christmas Day episode.
Well, I mean, that's it. You know, you've got to have a strong lead character, and it doesn't get much stronger than the Pope, a.k.a. Dirty Ben.
So Holly has suggested No Enders. Mark, you've suggested an optician-based soap.
And it's called Opticians! I should have said that.
Well, no, that lifts it. And Rufus has gone for Priestenders. I think, on the basis of the exclamation mark alone, I'm going to give the point to Mark.
There you go.
Now, this round is called This Putrid Modern Hell, and it's devoted to the biggest wrongs from the awful now in which we reside. I'll be asking each of my guests to nominate the thing they hate most about contemporary life. My favourite answer wins a point. Critics say our reliance on text messages and tweets is making us worryingly inarticulate, but luckily there's a wealth of scientific research to suggest the truth is actually a whole opposite bunch of stuff to that. Modern science can do incredible things. They grew a human ear on the back of a live mouse, presumably so it could hear people screaming, "Oh my God, someone kill that disgusting abomination." Mark, what annoys you most about the modern world?
Any helpline or any phone line where you have to talk to a voice recognition thing rather than an actual person. I feel really sort of middle-aged complaining about this. But they just don't work very well. Machines aren't as good as humans at recognising what you're saying because, they, for example, they don't have ears. So, for example, I had to read out a 16-digit card number last week to an automated thing. And, of course, you get through it and it says, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand that." And it's all you can do not to say, "Yes, because you're not a person." So you didn't understand it for the same reason you don't celebrate your birthdays, for example. There's another, I had to use one on a train recently, and I had a password on this account which was bacon.
You've just told us all that.
Yeah, because basically it's paying off a credit card, so you'll only use it if you want to reverse defraud me, basically. But I was on a crowded train having to say over and over again, "Bacon, bacon," each time I said, "I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Please say it again after the tone. Bacon, bacon." And in the end, I just got referred to a person, the same as if I'd just rung up in the old days and spoken to a person, except that I wouldn't have said bacon 7 times on a train.
So you're against voice recognition. I thought of an app, right, which, where all it does is it records what you say during all your conversations, and it works out your sort of little verbal tics, okay? And then it's autopilot. So when somebody phones up and you couldn't really be bothered to listen to them, you push a button and it just simulates the sort of thing you normally do on the phone. So it just goes, "Yeah, what?"
Yeah, okay. Great.
And it will recognise certain things, like the sound of weeping or something, and then it will like play a little alert so you pick it up and actually hold a conversation.
Or it could just have it could just have a few key phrases for when, like if it picks up weeping, it could be, "Oh my God, are you all right?" The same way that your phone has built-in text messages saying things like, "I love you," for if your life really is too bleak for you to actually...
That's true!
I can't even be bothered to write that.
That is terrifying. I remember spotting that. That is terrifying.
Yeah,
there was a pre-written default text message that said, "I love you too."
Yeah.
That you could just select as an option.
I love you, but not quite so much that I'm going to write, "I love you."
Rufus, what annoys you about the modern world?
Balance. We have a situation now where everything around us is join in with the debate. There's a big debate. Oh, the news it's all kicked off in the news. You're listening to the Jeremy Fine show, and we're asking, is eating a bucket of live wasps with every meal good for you? One man who says it isn't is John McFalloway, Cambridge Professor Emeritus of Human Dietary Nutrition, and here to say it's absolutely fine is Bedlam's finest, Albert Moonhowler. And it's basically with any one thing now, you can't just have somebody go, "Yeah, that's right." You have to have a debate. And the biggest problem I have with balance is this. I think that most normal people, if you think there is a genuine debate raging, then you think, well, neither of them are probably right. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. So we constantly give way to the middle ground, to nutcases. So it's like, is eating a handful of live wasps with every meal good for you? Well, this guy, who's the professor of nutrition, says, no, don't do it. Some nutcase says, do it. Well, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. So with breakfast, I'll just eat a handful of live wasps. Yeah.
That's a very good point that you've raised there, but for the sake of balance, I suppose I'll have to point out you're completely wrong, you idiot. You never mentioned any of that during Argumental.
A show whose entire principle was we must argue over every single point.
Yeah. The exact opposite. What I would say is, at no point, though, did we lay claim to being Question Time.
No, that's true.
No, it's not like we had John Sargent hosting it or anything.
Okay, so Rufus, you're annoyed by balance, basically. Holly, what annoys you about the modern world?
I get annoyed by packaging, the way that...
It contains things.
Yeah. No, the way that it sort of talks to you now. Like, the last sort of wave of marketing before this current wave was that sort of rubbish self-affirming stuff. 'Cause you're worth it. you know, and I always think, what, like, are you saying my personal worth is equal to that of a $2.99 bottle of shampoo? I mean, that's the most backhanded compliment I've ever heard. But now, it's sort of gone the kind of way of the innocent smoothie, which is like, put a little hat on it, and it sort of talks to you like, heat me and eat me. Like, I bought this ridiculously expensive box of muesli the other day. You know, the kind of one where, like, every single flake is hand-picked by a woman from Surrey. That kind of one. And on the side of it, it said, someone's having a good morning. And that really annoyed me. A, because how dare it make me feel guilty that I'm so lazy I'm eating it at 9 o'clock at night. And B, I don't want my food to judge how my day is going. You know, like, you don't pick up a bottle of vodka and it goes, wow, your life sucks. So I'm sick of this sort of, you know, this sort of straight-talking, packaging sort of...
I know what you
food.
mean. I mean, I hate the smoothie cartons that say things like, I'm one of your 5 a day. Hello. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Cuddle me. Give me a cuddle when you take me out of the fridge. It's so needy.
Yeah.
It's so needy. Just shut up and hold my drink.
This is
I
the
think, is it because they think people are so lonely that they need affirmation from...
Had a nice chat with my smoothie, at least.
it can stand me.
I talked to my smoothie the other day, it just went, yep. Right?
It started when Microsoft put a folder on your computer called My Documents. You just look at it and go, I know they're my documents. I wrote them. Stop talking down to me, you stupid machine. So whose documents are they going to be? Todd Carty's?
Then they got the talking paperclip. I mean, this is all the beginning of it. It's a spell checker. I don't need it to sort of come over and go, I see you are writing a letter.
Yeah, maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Back out of it, paperclip.
The thing is, meta to all of that is basically giving things that aren't capable of feeling a personality. Southwest Trains would like to apologise for the late running of this service. Would it?
Like there's a train weeping in the sidings. I'm so late, I've been so late.
The fat controller desperately trying to console it.
Yeah, I'm just about a train.
They annoy me, those sort of announcements they do at railway stations, because they pre-record apologies. That's what I think you need to look at your service if you're employing a man to do voiceovers for pre-recorded apologies. Like, I would rather people apologise there and then when something went wrong, rather than sort of stacking up apologies as they went along. I got in an argument with a tannoy the other day.
That's not a good statement, is it?
It just went ding dong, this is a customer announcement. Any unattended items will be destroyed without warning. And I was like, wait a minute, that is a warning. If you're going to do it properly, just go bing bong.
Well, at the end of that round, in the interest of balance, I'm going to give a point to Rufus. And so, in our final round, I'll be asking my guests a series of quick-fire questions, and as always, the wrongest answer to each one wins a point. So, what's the worst thing you could say on a date?
My dad's dead, you know. But we are 10.
Seems to have been quite a winner. You didn't employ that in your adult life,
no, actually, it's fair to say I've never told my wife wrongly that anyone's dead, and I think that's what I attribute the success of the relationship to. Yeah. I'm always 100% honest with my wife about who is dead and who's alive. That's why she loves me.
It's best to keep an air of mystery.
Sometimes when she rings up and says, how's the baby, I'll leave a sort of exciting pause and then say, fine.
It's
Everything like this, yeah, it's the X Factor technique.
Anyway, I'm going to give that to Mark. Okay, what is the worst superhero superpower?
Currency conversion.
That's pretty good, I would have thought. I thought of one which is a confusing superpower, which is a guy who can see through walls, but only when his own sister is getting changed behind him.
Probably a superpower.
I came up with one who's capable of giving people a temporary nut allergy.
That's pretty good.
I've called it anaphylactic.
I think flying, but you don't know how long it's going to last for, would be
Or the ability to fly 0.3 millimetres off the surface of the ground.
Yeah, flying, but so low that it looks like you're just walking
barely
weird.
detectable.
Yeah, so frustrating. This is a miracle, don't you realise?
I love the idea of, I'm going to give you a point for flying but not knowing how long it's going to last is brilliant. What's the worst name you can think of for a boy band?
The Creepy Uncles.
It's pretty good.
I think Take That, because there is already another boy band called Take That.
Yeah,
You'd be an
there's just
idiot.
legal problems, yeah.
You'd be an idiot to call your band Take That.
I think Take That is, I mean, we're so used to the idea of Take That now, but it's a very strange, no one says Take That as an actual phrase now, so maybe there's scope for other ones like, That'll Teach You, or...
Have some of this.
Exactly.
Why I order.
Yeah.
How'd you like them apples?
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, it's How'd You Like Them Apples?
I think I'm going to give the point to Rufus. What is the worst film that could be turned into a musical?
Spider-Man, apparently.
I think Rufus. You definitely get a point for that. What is the worst tagline to a horror film?
In a land where everything is fine.
Yeah.
You did manage to make that sound sinister, though.
Yeah. A world where everything is as it seems. There's almost always in films, nothing is as it seems. If you watched a film where everything was as it seemed, for example, you walked into a room, there was a plant there, and it just was a plant.
I think unexpected item in bagging area.
It's only a matter of time until that is the tagline for a horror. You know that's going to be that tagline for a horror film about people who get beheaded in Tesco.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to give Holly a point for that. What is the worst thing to read in a horoscope?
Today sees Jupiter enter Mars, beginning a chain reaction that breaks up our universe. This is the end of all things. If you have loved ones, simply kiss them goodbye. On the plus side, someone at work recognises your true potential.
Can't beat that. That's a point to you, Rufus. Okay, so that is the end of the show. And I see that at the end of all of that, Mark has won. Oh. Congratulations. So well done, Mark. You're officially so wrong you're right. Commiserations to Holly and Rufus. That's it. That's all you get. Go away.
Well, now, Radio 4 is out to seek the best in wrong answers.
Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker and welcome to So Wrong It's Right, a panel show celebrating the very worst of the very worst. It's a show that repeatedly rewards misery, just like the TV Soap Awards, which has categories for Best Misery, Best Supporting Misery and Best Misery in a Laundrette. Of course, the better your education, the fewer mistakes you make. I only failed one subject at school, French and maths. Yes, the misjudged, the incorrect and the downright ridiculous all get a pat on the back here, so let's have a big hand for tonight's guests. Funny man John Richardson, funny lady Izzy Sooty and funny peculiar Frank Skinner. Now, the first round is called Wrong Time, Wrong Place. I'll be asking my guests to out-wrong each other with tales from their own lives. My favourite story wins a point. This week's theme is Days Out. For a day out, I recently took my nephew to the zoo. He got his face painted just like a tiger. It was really charming until they shot him with a tranquilizer dart for trying to get into the cafe. Frank Skinner, what's the worst day out you've ever had?
Well, I went to a test match at Edgbaston in Birmingham. I was living in London, and I drove down there for a Saturday of play. And it was England versus the West Indies. And England had 8 wickets remaining, and they'd all gone by lunchtime. So I'd driven to Birmingham for 2 hours of embarrassing play. So I left there, very upset, and drove back to London. And I got into one of the subways in Birmingham, and the traffic stopped completely. There'd been some sort of bomb scare or something at New Street Station. Anyway, I was down there for over an hour. And eventually we got out, And so I was feeling quite shaky and depressed. And then I ran out of petrol on the M6. Well, I've never run out of petrol on the motorway before. It's quite scary. A man stopped to help me. Anyway, I got the petrol, I went home, and as I got very near my house, there was a police van driving down the road towards me. And I thought it was going to pull in a gap for me to go past, but it didn't. And I thought, I'm sure I can get through that gap between the police van and the parked car. It's one of the few times I've ever wished that I was in a vehicle that had whiskers. Because I completely misjudged the gap, and I hit the side of the police van. And I decided not to stop. I thought, they're facing the other way, I'll be out of here before...
That's how it works.
Yeah. So I drove really quickly to get away. And I turned a couple of corners, and they came out and blocked me off. So I'm sitting in the car, and the police get out the van and walk towards me. And I thought, I'm going to go to prison for this. And I could see there was a big black mark down the side of the police van. And I got out, he got me to get out of the car. And he said, oh, hold on a minute, I know you. You're that bloke off. And I said, yeah, I am. And he said, what's happened to West Brom this season? And I gave him a brief summary of our form. And he said, next time you're at a police van, stop. That was his advice, and then off I went.
That sounds like quite a nice end to a day out.
Well, no, I was racked with guilt at my preferential treatment.
I mainly take away from that the brilliant idea of giving a car whiskers. So, Izzy, what about you? What's your worst day out?
And the worst day out I ever had in my adult life was me and my ex-boyfriend. So I said, for New Year, let's go to an airport and we'll go up to the desk and we'll say, destination anywhere, like in a film. It'll be really romantic, and then we'll get the first ticket out of the airport. We got to Gatwick, and it was about midday on the day out. And we went up to a desk and said, destination anywhere. And she went, sorry? And we went, destination anywhere, with slightly less wind behind our sails. She said, well, there are 2 flights, and one is to Dublin and one is to Cameroon. Now, he'd just been to Dublin for work, so he said, I don't want to go to Dublin. So we said, OK, Cameroon. And she said, have you had your injections? And we were like, what injections? The relationship wasn't going that well. It was kind of a bit of a make or break situation. I was like, please, can we go to Cameroon? And he was paying, so he was like, OK, we'll go to Cameroon. So we went to buy the ticket, and they said, you do realise that you'll be on the plane at midnight? And we were like, oh, it was like a 20-hour flight or something. So he said, come on, we won't go to Cameroon. And we walked hand in hand to the pub in Gatwick and got hammered in the pub and played table tennis with pilots' sons who were waiting for their dads to finish work on New Year so they could have a party. And then we went home, we had an argument, and then we played pin the tail on the donkey, and then went to bed before midnight, like 11:40. So that was the worst day out that I've ever had.
That's an epically rubbish day out. John, what's your catastrophe?
Well, mine's more of a sort of tale of overreaction, because I just like to hate everything. So even a good day out, I'll hate it. Anyway, but if I'd had your day, I would have killed thousands. Just gone on a spree. I went to watch, I drove from Swindon to watch Leeds playing the FA Cup last year. And already I'm annoyed at myself, because I love football, but I hate myself for it, because I don't like most people who also like football. And it was snowing, and I kind of knew we were going to lose. And then traffic was bad because it was snowing, so I had to walk the last 2 miles to the ground, and we got battered. And then I had to walk 2 miles back to my car. And then I started driving home. I had my sat-nav, but I made the mistake of believing TomTom time. So when it said you will get in at midnight 46, I thought, well, that's fine, midnight 46, I can watch an episode of Family Guy and have a little glass of port and be in bed by 1:30. I've got to get up at 7:30, so that's fine. And then things kept happening that just took a minute at a time. Like, I had to stop for petrol because I do that.
Well, that's how you get it, is it? You have to stop.
Yeah. When the needle's getting low, I think this needs sorting. Just buying a new car every day. This one stopped as well. And then they closed the motorway, and then I got really near home, and the road just shut again with no warning, and I got really angry then. And I was driving through a little village, and I held my horn down all the way through the village as a sort of protest. And then the junction before I turn onto the estate, I live on a traffic light in the middle of nowhere with nobody for miles around, went from green to red. And I just lost it. I thought, there's no way these are on a timer. There's a man whose job it is to operate these traffic lights, who is a Tottenham fan, who has watched me drive all the way. And then I wound this is the lowest point of my life. I wound my window down and I spat at a traffic light.
Can I ask a question? What game was it in the FA Cup?
It was the replay, Leeds Tottenham, and then we got them back to Ellen Road. And
because I did the FA Cup draw that year. I think I might have sent you to Leeds.
Well, I should probably reveal that a few years ago when England were playing the West Indies, I put a bomb at Birmingham New Street.
So, we're even at last.
That was an odyssey of pain that you described then, and I have to say I think that deserves the point. Well done, John. Okay, our next round is called Do Your Worst. I'll be asking each of my guests to pitch me a spectacularly bad idea. This week, I've asked them to come up with an awful concept for a smartphone app. In case you don't know what an app is, don't worry, you can probably download an app that'll explain it to you. Many apps are games, and the best-selling one of all time is Angry Birds, in which brightly coloured squawking chicks desperately launch themselves at pigs. It's basically a Mancunian nightclub simulator. To some people, iPhones are like a religion. They don't know how it works, but it gives them something to cling to, so their life has meaning. Okay, so, Izzy, what's your idea?
Well, the worst app for me would be one which shows you what you could have accomplished if you hadn't been on a smartphone. So, learning Russian, going abroad, so it will show you in a slightly happier state, 8% happier on a day-to-day basis than you are looking at a screen all the time.
But I like looking at screens is better. Generally speaking, it's more entertaining than looking at people. It's like you get more out of it. Am I alone in this?
No, I think that's fair enough.
I was joking. I didn't mean that, you maniacs.
But it just seems never ending. It's like choice is crippling. You can just spend your whole time going, what would I look like if I was Victorian? And then, I look all right, don't I? And then, another 10 minutes has gone by. You could have had a bath, or you could have read a book. I just
hold on a minute. This is the woman who drove to Gatwick to play Pin the Tail on the Donkey.
So it's like that bit on Bullseye where he used to show them what they could have won. But you take a photo of yourself sitting in your dingy living room, and it digitally paints in all these things, a family you could have had, children who love you, and stuff. But instead you were staring at photos of yourself looking like a pirate, or playing Angry Birds, or popping virtual bubble wrap, or going, oh look, it looks like I'm drinking a pint. John, what's your idea for an app?
Well, based on your theory that as soon as you get a smartphone you realise that screens are better than real life, it's called the Eye, and it's a camera. It doesn't record, but you just hold the phone and it shows you what's in front of you. And then you can just go around always looking at the screen. You never have to talk to anyone. You can go to gigs and watch it as if it was on your phone. Hold it above your head and see the band as if it was a video of a band, and not a tedious live event.
Hold on a bit. You can do that with your camera anyway. Just don't take a picture, just look at the thing, and it does show you what's there.
But he wants to charge people for it, which is brilliant.
I'm not on the side of these people. I just, I want to be able to see them coming and run them over. And have them think it's happening in a film they're watching.
I have honestly, if I see someone walking down the road texting or something walking towards me, I will deliberately walk into them, or at least quite hard hit their shoulder, as in a sort of educational role.
To be fair, though, you probably just thought you could have got through the gap.
Yeah, that's what we need, a Whiskers app.
Well, let's move on to you, Frank. What's your genius suggestion?
My app is called Captive Audience. And the idea of it is that you kid people into thinking that you've got a hostage hidden somewhere very near to where you are. So, for example, in the car, if you were on a 40-minute journey, so you'd set it for 40 minutes, about 5 minutes in, the phone would start to make a sort of a thumping noise that sounded like it was coming from the boot. And then about 10 minutes in, there'd be a sort of a just enough like that for the passenger to think, that isn't someone in the boot, is it? And then by just before the end of the journey, they'd go, and you'd never mention it. I also thought if you were a doctor, it would be a brilliant thing, because you could have it on the desk, and it would sound like there was someone tied up and gagged in your cupboard, in your surgery. So when someone came in, they'd hear, and they'd start to think that you weren't the real doctor. That the real doctor you'd attacked and tied up and gagged in the cupboard. And if you added to this by appearing deliberately incompetent, I'll just get my, stethoscope or stuff like that. You could really fool people. It would also work quite well in cemeteries.
I heard about someone who used to make CDs where there was like 30 minutes of silence on them, and then just really loud, bad language, trumpets, all sorts of noises like that. And what he'd do is he'd go into like high street stores like Dixon's or Curry's and put them in the stereos, turn the volume up to maximum, press play, and then just walk away. And wait. Brilliant. It's a brilliantly psychotic thing to do.
I don't see why you think that's great, but the doctor playing a practical joke on the patient is outrageous.
Because he's in a position of trust.
No. It's because it's your idea.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna make it up to you. You want doctors to throw voices into cupboards, for which you deserve a point. Now, this round is called This Putrid Modern Hell, and it's devoted to the biggest wrongs from the modern world. I'll be asking each of my guests to nominate the thing they hate most about modern life. My favourite answer wins a point. I'm a modern consumer. I was admiring blackberries in curries the other day. Weird recipe, but what do you expect at a Heston Blumenthal restaurant? The internet is now so big, it's the subject of major Hollywood films. Maybe you saw The Social Network, which was about Facebook. I'm actually up for the lead role in another internet movie. I'll be playing Jeeves in the Ask Jeeves story. Basically, I dress as a butler and spend 300 hours telling people where the pornography is. John, what annoys you most about the modern world?
Well, pretty much all of it. It would be easier to list the things I don't hate. Of all of the ones that I hate, I'll pick sexual liberation.
You said that with disgust.
Yeah.
Playing across your face.
I think I was supposed to have been born in the 1920s. I hate all the sex everywhere. And
I'll tell you something, that would explain the port.
And my dress sense. I'm biased because it's one of the things I'm worst at. And I don't think that should matter. I think
revolving during sex? What are you talking about?
Just sex in general. I'm bad at it. I don't like it. But it counts too much.
If people are telling you you're bad, you must be terrible. They're openly critiquing. What, during?
There isn't time. There's just, it's just... I just, I want to live in an era where you marry someone for 10 years, then you do it once, and you both apologise afterwards. I'm terribly sorry, I didn't know I did that. Something came over me, if you'll pardon the expression, and I did something I'm not proud of, and I think we should probably divorce now and live in separate countries. But now you have to, go out and you have to do it. It's the first thing you have to do. Don't get to know me. Do me first. Do me all the time. If I go to a nightclub, as I am wont to do, and I have a few blue wickets, and I meet a charming lady,
The last thing you want to do is have sex with her.
Yeah, but you can't say, let's just go back and watch 80s feel-good movie and then cuddle for a bit and then, you know...
You could?
No, you couldn't. Oh, everyone... you're supposed to go, let's go in the disabled bogs and do it.
So hold on a minute. Why does someone who doesn't want sex go to a nightclub?
Because where else am I going to go? The tea dances ended.
So, what is it about, like...
I like sex, I just don't want to do it, like, within hours of meeting you. And I don't want to be judged on it straight away. I don't want that to be a valid reason for you not to like me.
You must be irresistible, because in my experience, it's a war of attrition getting anywhere. So much as touch your leg. It's like there's so much begging and crying and that goes on. It's just pathetic, the whole thing. But whereas according to you, it's like you're disgusted by the frequency with which it's offered to you. You can just say, oh, you know, you can't... Who's making you?
You can't do that. You can't look into the eyes of a woman in a club and say, I hope you know I don't want this to move very quickly, because I should be terribly upset if it went to piece, you see, so I shall call you tomorrow about some bridge in a week, and then...
But what do you say? Are these women you're meeting are going, come on, we must have sex now, come on, let's do it, John?
I'm quite sure the women don't want it to be this way either, but there's this contractual, oh God, here we go then, and it's going to be rubbish as well, because you stink. You've been dancing, you had a kebab, and blue drink, and it's just, you know, we're obliged to enter into this, well, this is how it'll be done then, let's get this out of the way first.
This is sort of charming, but I also feel like I'm listening to the start of a police interview tape. I like the idea that sexual freedom in general is a terrible, terrible thing. So, Frank, what infuriates you about modern existence?
Well, you put me in a situation there where someone has just ranted about the obligation to be forced into sex and how there's a sort of moral decline. What I really get angry about is when I'm queuing. This is like turning off Frankie Boyle to watch The Goodies. No, I really get wound up by the fact that people don't know how to queue anymore. You get those people that have a chat very near the end of a queue. So you have to say to them, excuse me, are you in the queue? And they always, if they're not in the queue, they look at you like, what kind of a stupid question is that? Of course we're not in the queue. Well, you would then stand at the end of the queue then. And there's people that won't pick up their bag. They have to kick it as the queue moves along. And what about those people, if you're in a shop or a cafe, you can hear behind you, let me remind you, behind you in the queue, saying, shall I grab a table? No, that's one of the things we're queuing for, is a table. And the fact that there's three of you, so one of you can go and get a table, and I'm on my own, is a basic oppression of the lonely. Hear, hear. Thank you very much. However, when it comes to queuing for sex, I'm fine with it.
But I thought it was pretty much sorted out by the whole cashier number X system, that I'm just a worker ant being given basic instructions, and I quite like being just told what to do. Go to number 4.
That's fine. I don't mind that one. Although what I don't like about that one is when you're at the front of that queue and it says, counter number 5, please. And you don't hear it first time, and people start shoving you and pointing at counter number 5 like you're a complete fool.
As someone who's been behind that person, I just think, when we've been queuing, why haven't you been looking at where the tills are and where the display is that announces where the next till is? What have you been doing while we've been queuing? How can you not know there was a till number 5? Some people get to the front and they go, where's 5? You go, it's behind 4!
Have you ever had that thing happen when you get to the front of the queue and it says cashier number 4, and you walk over and the cashier walks away, and you're like left, like you've been amputated from the queue, and and no one will let you back in. They knife you first.
Yeah, well, the person at the front of the queue gives you that look that says, "You dare walk back."
So, Frank, you're furious about queuing. Izzy.
Well, the main thing that I hate is my friends, now I'm 32,
Oh, you haven't finished?
Now I'm 32, I don't need friends. Now I'm 32, my friends have started moving away to the country to have kids, and they almost immediately become very smug and start going on about how you can buy homemade marmalade from next door, and it's got bits of orange in it. You never get that in London. I think you do. You just have to pay probably more than you do in the country. And like all the shops close at 2:00. It's not Italy. Just stay open.
So basically, you're infuriated by smug people going and having children, spawning a brood out near some trees.
Yeah, and they're sort of... Yeah, and it's like they give them a name like, we got inspired by a tree, so we're going to call her Acorn. She's going to get bullied.
The country's not... Did you not grow up in the... I grew up in the country. It's nice. We're not all monsters. Some of us have got sort of bark on us.
There was nothing to do at all where I grew up. I grew up in Derbyshire, and maybe that's kind of fed into my resentment of people who idealise the countryside. I think that's it. I think actually what I'm annoyed with is the notion, and in a way it's a bit similar to John's. It's this thing that there's always something better going on, but in the countryside.
Whereas you
not sex. There's always something better going on.
That is the problem. I mean, when I go back to the village where I grew up, it's like really, you go, it's lovely, it's great. And after 48 hours, you just get the scenery's the same. I've just walked out, it hasn't changed. That's the problem with going for a walk in the countryside. It's the same bloody countryside every day. And once you're out in the countryside, there's no point for going for a walk in another slightly different bit of the countryside, because it's all just the countryside. It's only a novelty when you live in London. So, John, you're annoyed by sexual, sort of the pressure to have sex. Frank, you're infuriated by cues, and Izzy, it's sort of smug people who try to desperately enjoy the countryside. How dare they? I'm going to give the point to John, because I think...
You nearly said I'm going to give it to John then.
Now, into a very fast, quick-fire final round, I'll be asking my guests a series of quick-fire questions. As ever, the wrongest answer to each one wins a point. What is the worst thing you've ever laughed at?
I laughed at my dog's death. No, that's absolutely true. Not so much its actual demise, but my father, who was alive, he phoned me up and he said, Shep's died. And I said, no, I'm sorry to hear that. He said, I let him out last night, to do his business before we went to bed. He said, I heard a splashing noise. And I said, well, you would. And he said, no, he fell in the garden pond. Right, it's a tiny pond. It's about a diameter of about 2 feet. And he said he fell in the pond. He said, I had to go out and pull him out of there. He said, and this is what my dad said, bear in mind he's breaking the death of the dog to me. He's very upset. He said, I had to give him artificial respiration. And of course, I didn't know whether he was pumping at his shoulder blades or actually doing the mouth-to-mouth thing. And he said, I knew he wasn't well after that. And he said, I got up the next morning and he was lying dead by the telephone. And of course, I had to say, do you think he was trying to call a vet? And he got genuinely upset. But it's terrible hearing tragedy dressed in such circus entertainment.
It's nice we can all laugh at your dead dog.
Yeah, he had a gun in it. He's 18, for goodness sake. Anyone else? Time.
Anyone else laughed at something awful?
Exclusively laugh at things that aren't meant to be laughed at. If you've never just typed walking into Glassdoor into YouTube, then you've never really lived.
I haven't done that.
There's one where a guy's got a coffee and it just... There's one at the moment of Bobby Davro. Have you seen that?
Oh, God, yes, no. It's a horrible... That's horrible.
This isn't a roundabout what's funny and there's no consequences.
It's a video of a programme, the taping of some BBC show from like the mid-90s or something like this, and Bobby Davro is placed in a set of stocks. So his head's through the stocks and his
I'm
hands
liking
are
it
there,
so far.
And he can't move. And it's up on... It's from a safety video or something. They show you a thing that could go wrong. And he's placed up on a sort of podium, and then... something goes wrong, and they're dancing around. Lionel Blair.
Lionel Blair.
Dancing around, clapping and laughing like this.
Lionel Blair, Jim Bowen.
Jim Bowen. And then the stocks it tumbles forwards. Like that. And he obviously can't move his hands or his face straight head first from a height onto a studio floor, and he's knocked unconscious. But I watched that and I felt desperately unwell. What's the matter? And you just laugh.
Because it's the thing that could happen to me. It's not, I'm glad he's hurt. There's just, my God, now I know if I'm ever put in stocks, they should be secured to the stage. Because you can see it tilts, and you can see him go to pull his head out. And then you know he's got that 5 seconds of, well, we know what's happening now.
Can I say that I will still have my coat on when I get home and look at this body double?
And that noise means we've reached the end of the show. That's what that noise means. I think I'm going to give the point to John, which means that John is officially the worst contestant and has won. Congratulations to you, commiserations to Izzy and Frank, commiserations to you for sitting there listening to me say this. Now go away.
So Wrong, It's Right was hosted by Charlie Brooker with guests Frank Skinner, Izzy Sooty and John Richardson. The producer was Aled Evans, and it was a Zeppotron production for BBC Radio 4.
Now on Radio 4, Charlie Brooker hosts So Wrong, It's Right, the comedy panel show that revels in glorious failure.
Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker and welcome to So Wrong It's Right, a panel show devoted to Britain's favourite subject, abject, miserable failure. It's a tasteless half-hour celebration of disaster, much like one of Jordan's marriages. It is, of course, important that we all learn from mankind's past mistakes. They say those who cannot remember history are condemned to repeat it, although I can't imagine we'll ever have to go through the repeal of the Corn Laws again. They say calamity comes in threes, but here's 3 calamities who came by bus, namely Lee Mack, Shappi Khorsandi and David Schneider. The first round is called Wrong Time, Wrong Place, in which my guests will be attempting to outwrong each other with stories from their own dismal lives. Now, some failures can be heartbreaking, namely heart failure, which is why this week I've asked them to share the worst thing they've ever done in pursuit of romance. Romance promotes the idea that only one human being on the planet is capable of bringing you true happiness. I consider myself extremely fortunate to have met that person. It's me. I'm a bit of an old romantic, long walks, candlelit dinners, which is a shame because my wife is actually more of a new romantic and prefers playing the synthesizer while dressed as a highwayman. The movies make out romances all about heroic displays of devotion, grand passion and running hand in hand through cornfields. But I think what's truly romantic is sharing each waking moment with the same person every day for 25 years and still being able to look them in the eye and utterly mask your despair. The best relationships are, of course, built on trust. Thankfully, I trust myself to delete my internet history. Lee Mack, Mr. Lee Mack, what is the worst thing you've ever done in pursuit of romance?
Well, the first kiss I ever had was a bit of a disaster. I don't know if it's counted as romance, but where I was from, the way to get a first kiss was to play Spin the Bottle. Are you aware of the game?
I'm aware. I've never played Spin the Bottle. No.
Let's play it now.
Let's play it now. I'm happy to.
What, with everyone here?
Yeah!
We're going to need a bigger bottle.
It could quickly get quite unhygienic.
You really know how to warm your crowd and like you, don't you? Ooh, it's going to get unhygienic if they get involved, the members of the public.
No, I've never played Spin the Bottle.
No. Well, Spin the Bottle is very simple. You sit around in a circle and you spin the bottle, and the 2 people that it points on, you have to do it twice, obviously, unless you've got a 2-ended bottle and they're rubbish. And
that's just a pipe.
And then you snog the person. Obviously, it's got to be someone of the opposite sex. If indeed you are a heterosexual, gay people are allowed to play it too. I don't want any letters.
What if it ends up pointing at a piece of furniture? Do you have to snog that?
Yeah, you have to. I've gone off with a coffee table a few times. Not all the time, just occasional. And so I spanned the bottle, and I'd never kissed a girl at this point, and I was very nervous, and it spins onto this good-looking girl that I fancied at the school. And I say school, it was about 6 months ago. And I leaned in for the kiss, and I did it, and everyone's looking, so there's lots of pressure. And I thought, you know, I'd pull back, and she'd probably ask to marry me, that sort of thing. And as I pulled away from her, I realised there was something still in my mouth, and it was her bottom lip.
No.
And so basically I'd pulled away and somehow bitten her bottom lip and taken it with me. And
What do you mean that?
No, wait, whoa. Hang on. I don't mean in a Mike Tyson sort of way. I don't mean that. When I say taking it away, I don't mean I was on the bus home. I mean, this all happened in a millisecond. I was centimetres away from her. Somehow
Was she
bitten
like
her
a cartoon character with a sort of rubberised face?
Yeah, it sort of stretched like that.
Was there a sound effect as well?
And then I was mortified, but I thought, well, she won't mention it. And then she screamed, "He bit me!"
I mean, did you enjoy it?
No, of course not. I was terrified. It's like the first time you have sex, isn't it? No one enjoys it. They'll say they do, but then it's just terrifying, isn't it? I lost my virginity to the House Martins. I mean, not the bat, not the small bird. That's what was playing in the background.
Right, happy hour.
Happy 10 seconds. And ever since then, if I listen to the House Martins now, I just get a flood of fear, thinking,
I've got to have sex with someone. Oh no! What a terrible thing to have to do. Do you
What
listen
year
to?
was that then? What year was the was?
well, I was.
It wasn't that long ago.
The 80s, isn't it? It's the 80s.
It was the 80s. I think I was about 17, 18, you know. I'd say that's about average, Shappy.
Okay.
I'm neither, you know, I was neither forward nor backwards. I was bang on the average.
Okay.
Now, what about you, Shappy? How old were you?
My first kiss was when I was 15 in Paris, and that was to Glenn Medeiros' "I'm never gonna lose my love for you. You're up to..." Did I just sing that?
Yeah, we probably have to now pay Glenn Medeiros. So Lee, the worst thing you've done in Pursuit of Romance was to sort of try and eat a woman's face bit by bit, basically. Shappy, what is the worst thing you've done for love?
I think probably getting married. Because looking back on it now that I'm separated, it was saying, "I'm madly in love with you and you're madly in love with me. Only one thing could make this better. Yes, we have to get the local authority involved." So I think that was pretty bad. But going back to when I was a child, when I was about 9 years old, I was madly in love with a boy called Mark. And I used to time my walk to school to coincide with him coming out of his house and continue the same walk to the same school. Not to talk to him, but in order to start walking really, really fast once he came out. Because I thought if he could see just how fast I could walk, he'd fall in love with me. Because, you see, I've got an older brother, and so I was praised for doing things like walking fast and backflips and wheelies and stuff. So, I have to say this, I'm not proud of this, but more recently...
You've done that?
No. More recently, I've pretended that my child's not mine in Pursuit of Romance because...
Alert social services.
This cute guy in the supermarket said to me, "Is that your child?" And I said, "No, he came free with these 3 bottles of wine." Which is actually quite true, if you...
If you were to really unpack it, yeah. So, did it proceed from that point?
No, he thought I was mental. It's because you don't want guys to straight away know that you're a single mum. You want to filter out weirdos. So I thought I'd be a weirdo and pretend that this kid in the kiddie bit of my trolley wasn't mine. I was just pushing him around. But you know, you do crazy things, like, especially if you're on red wine. My husband, I can't believe he married me after this one night where I was so distraught because I drunk red wine, and I asked him, out of all of my friends, who he would sleep with if he had to. And he answered honestly, right? So then we... and
it wasn't you?
We don't see my friend Katie anymore.
David, what is the worst thing you've done?
Yeah, well, when I was I'd just gone beyond the walking away age to 12, 13. I was obsessed with this girl called Mary, who was the same age, and we used to go to the swimming pool a lot. And I remember once her and all her cool friends were sort of pointing at this thing that had dropped into the pool, and I thought, I was a good swimmer, I'll show off, I'll dive in and I'll rescue it for her. And I dived in, and it was only then that I realised it was a poo. It was a catastrophe. I came up, everyone was laughing, I went home and I asked my mum and dad if we could move, that's how I felt about it. But I feel better having shared it with you and the listeners.
That's disgusting. That's a horrible story.
Thank you.
It really is.
Thank you very much.
And presumably you didn't then go on to impress her with any other sort of acts of daring do.
No.
That's quite, yeah, it's a tragic story. So I'm deciding between Lee's lip-chewing spin-the-bottle accident, Shappy's fast-walking mess, but I think the point must go to David for his swimming pool heroics. Well done. The next round is called Do Your Worst. I'll be asking my guests to pitch me a terrible idea. This week, they've been tasked with coming up with a concept for a new museum. My favourite museum is the British Museum, an awe-inspiring celebration of mankind's capacity for theft. One of my favourite things to do in London is to go to the British Museum and stare at the mummies and guess whether they're divorced or not. Shappy Corsandi, what is your concept for a museum?
I couldn't decide between a museum where you stuff people who killed animals either for business or fun, like sort of whalers, matadors, that kind of thing, and
you
then
stuff them like taxidermy.
Yeah, kind of, and then the museum would only be open to residents of London Zoo or something. But then I thought that's a bit.
What do you mean, the residents? You mean literally the animals?
The animals, yeah. I'm now sounding like a vegan. I don't mean to. I like animal rights, but to a point.
What's the biggest animal you'll eat?
Well, this
I'll tell you what, you know all the Chatham lines, don't you, Charlie? I'd love to see you in a nightclub. Hello, love. What's the biggest animal you'd eat?
That's the tricky thing with animal rights, because I care about animals, but only up to a point. I eat meat, but I hate fur. So if I have a pork scratching, I have to shave it first. You know. So anyway, but then I thought better than that would be a museum of weapons that had killed famous folk. Like, you would have the guns that killed JFK, John Lennon, and then you could have the bit of ham that choked Mama Cass.
You could argue that the thing that actually killed John Lennon wasn't the weapon, but was the mental illness that made Mark Chapman kill him. So you'd have to harness Mark Chapman's mental illness inside some kind of balloon, which would make you more mentally ill than him.
Okay.
Would you have the hammer that killed Simon Cowell? That doesn't make sense now, but by the time this goes out, we can all live in hope.
Well, actually, you can have a museum with failed X Factor contestants, and you can have your photo taken with the actual
cool, yeah.
crying. Is it Wagner or
Wagner.
Yes.
So, David, what's your idea for a museum?
My idea is the Museum of the Politically Incorrect, a sort of not PC world, if you like. Andy Gray and Richard Keys are the curator. I think you go in, there'd be a little black and white minstrel show playing the whole time. Everything that's non-PC. Maybe there's one of those street entertainers, like statue type person, but it's like a buxom lady in a short skirt, and if you put a little bit of money, she'll drop a pen and pick it up. You've got the John Galliano room where you can insult Jews. Used to be the Mel Gibson room, but you've got to move with the times. It'd be very hands-on, I think. There'd be the Top Gear room where you can taste if there is a difference between Mexican food and refried sick. All stuff that, we've forgotten about. A Big Fat Gypsy Wedding, that'll play as well. It can all be outdoors, but with those massive heaters all the time, so it's environmentally unfriendly even in the summer.
So it's a rather off-putting sort of place you're outlining.
I disagree. I think it's therapeutic. Well, you could say that this is a place where you can go privately, it's confidential, and you can get it all out, and then you can come and you can be right on. It'll help us to be right on. So it's a sort of purging experience. Yeah.
Mr. Lee Mack, what's your idea? for a horrific museum?
Well, I actually used to live near Forest Hill in London, and there's a museum there called the Horny Man Museum. And
it's not pronounced like that, though.
It is.
Is it?
It is called the Horny Man Museum, isn't it? Thank you very much.
All right.
What do you mean, all right? Why do you trust them but not me? I'm a guest, Charlie.
Look at you.
Do you do that at home? If I'd have come round your house for a cup of tea and I'd have gone, Arsenal won the FA Cup in '79, you'd go, no, they didn't. And I'd gone, they did. You'd open the window and go, did they? And the passers-by go, they did. And you go, all right, I believe you. I don't trust you, Lee. I trust those lot outside.
I wouldn't let you pass the door.
The Horny Man Museum. Now, the Horny Man Museum is fantastic. It's like they've actually got stuffed seagulls. See things that you can see living outside your window any day of the week. Stuffed. It's a brilliant idea. Oh, look, a sparrow and a squirrel. They have them all in there, right? But the most famous thing is a walrus, right? They stuffed it, but they didn't know what walruses looked like in about 1901 or whenever the museum was built. So they had to guess at what shape the walrus would take once stuffed. So famously, the walrus is in the wrong shape, right? It's basically overstuffed. And so instead of being all like folds of skin, it's all stretched and like that. You can't see this, obviously, on the radio, but what I'm doing is I'm miming. Basically, imagine a walrus if it was parachute jumping. With the G-force on the face, it's very stretched. Now, this is supposed to be a bad thing, because it teaches kids the wrong, but I just think it's brilliant. I like the idea that we should have a museum where all the animals are stuffed incorrectly. And so that in the future, that, like in 50,000 years, people might look back and go, apparently this is what the animals used to be like 50,000 years ago.
What, so you'd have, just a cat, but with all its organs stuffed into its head?
Yeah, I'm thinking you could have a monkey holding a tennis racket and doing that thing that the poster, is just scratching
with the girl lifting it. Why would a monkey
on the back legs with his hands up again? You're not seeing this on the radio. Imagine a cowboy that's been shot by 10,000 arrows in the back. That's the look of the hedgehog.
It sounds suspiciously like the Body Worlds exhibit. I don't know if you've gone to see that,
yeah.
but you know the Body Worlds exhibit where they've got the sort of dead people. And you think this is going to be educational. It's quite grisly. And then there's a room where it's just phantasmical creations they've done. Like a sort of 20-foot guy... Or did I imagine this?
No, I saw that, yeah.
But it's like a sort of guy riding a giant stallion and things like that. That's not education. That's just a sick man.
That's why we want it, isn't it? We want it to be sick. I'd have owls and then give them rear-view mirrors and then tell people in the future that owls didn't used to be able to turn their heads round.
They're like the anti-Attenborough.
Yeah, that'd be great, wouldn't it?
I want to do a museum of gift shops. Basically, I think that would genuinely, I would go and see a museum that just curated all the things you can buy in the gift shops in other museums. I think that'd be fabulously good, because it's the best bit.
It is the best
of a museum. Okay, so Shappi, you came up with a museum of celebrity killing objects.
Yeah, sorry about
that. David, yours was non-PC world. I think the point is going to go to Lee for his museum of poorly stuffed creatures. This round is called This Putrid Modern Hell, and it's devoted to the worst aspects of the modern world. I'll be asking each of my guests to nominate the thing they hate most about modern life, and my favourite answer wins a point. In this modern world, I often think life is getting increasingly like the Matrix trilogy. Not because of the technology, just that it gets worse the more it goes on. The internet has become so pervasive, there's even been an Oscar-nominated film about Facebook. I'm actually writing the screenplay for a movie based on Twitter. It's got a massive cast. I'm just trying to limit it to 140 characters. David Schneider, what annoys you most about the modern world?
I think a long way ahead of everything else is the orange mobile phone ads in the cinema. I get very tense about them. I know they are meant to be funny, and yet they're not. It's like seeing a stand-up die over and over every time you go to the cinema. But that's gone now. That's gone now. They've got different ads now where they're out of the boardroom, and they're still not funny because it's always just before the film. That's what's frustrating. I have tried to avoid them because it frustrates me if someone laughs. If someone laughs, it could be a huge cinema. Someone laughs. I want to go, why? Why are you not? No, stop the film. Tell everyone what you thought was funny. Stand up and tell us.
Turn that film off! Turn it off!
I also work as a teacher. But what's really confused me is the most recent one with Jack Black. I laughed at. When he says at the very end, I don't want to do this dance. I don't want to do this dance. I laughed. And so now I'm sharing this with you. I don't know who I am anymore. The sort of sense of nausea and the hot sweat. I mean, it was before, I think, the King's Speech. I saw it. I can't remember anything about the film. I can barely find my way home now. I don't know who I am because I laughed at an Orange mobile phone ad.
That's... Well, I've laughed at the...
Why? Tell me why! What bits? I tell you, the other thing I need to factor into this is that Steve First, who's a comedian friend of ours, is in it, and I did go up for the ad. I'm now hoping that they will edit that out, so my rant still stands, but no. I went up for it and didn't get it, so
what percentage of your anger is based in just in
listen,
frustration?
I've just opened myself to you, and it's now up to you to help me.
Genuinely, I was once asked to do an advert for Chessington World of Adventures. Come to Chessington World of Adventures.
Why wouldn't you get Charlie Brooker to that? The voice of happiness. Hello, if you want to have a really great day out in Chessington World of Adventures, you've got nothing better to do.
Lee, what enrages you most about modern life?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, it's a good question, and I'll answer that immediately. I cannot stand this idea that in the last sort of 15, 20 years, that we are got to pretend now as British people that we're not sexually repressed. And places like Ann Summers and Asian Provocateur, which I hadn't even heard of until I had to go in at Christmas to buy my wife some knickers. And it's this idea that...
Did you say Asian Provocateur? So I think you might have just hit on a fortune there.
Did I say Asian?
It sounded like
You did
me.
say Asian. I got a bit like, oh, hello, what's he going to say?
I sat next to you, Shappy, it was a Freudian slip.
I've not shopped there.
We are British, we are repressed, it's the way it's always been. It's going to take a while before we're not, so let's not pretend that we're not, right?
Yeah, try being Iranian.
Oh, hey, listen, I've tried, I got booed off the stage. So there I am. I'm with my wife's friend, having a drink. It's a long story, you don't need to know about that bit. And she said, get your wife some, knickers. And I said, I'll be too embarrassed, I'll be mortified. And she said, no, it's a great idea. So I turn up, right? Of course I don't care what anybody says, it's a sex shop. Right? It is. Right? So I walk in. Now there's a woman there who is basically like she's in some sort of sex version of a Carry On film, serving me. And I said, I'm looking for some knickers for my wife. In that voice that suggests this bloke has never been in a shop like this before. I'm looking for some knickers for my wife. I should have said that with an imaginary woodbine in the corner of my mouth, shouldn't I? I'm looking for some knickers for my wife. And she said, is it for fun? And I said, what do you mean, is it for fun? And she said, well, you know, would something like this be appropriate? And I thought, this is a woman who has barely got any clothes on in a shop that sells, you know, sex gear. And even she can't bring herself to say the word sex. I've got no chance, have I? If she can't say it. And also it struck me, I thought, oh, what do you mean fun? You know, it's not Alton Towers sex, is it? It's fun.
It's never going to be as fun as that. You can't even kiss properly. You don't like, bite a lip off. I can't believe that you haven't made people laugh during sex.
As a comedian, I would take it as a compliment.
Anyway, moving on. Shappy, what do you hate most about modern life?
The fact that we are so nervous of our neighbours. And this has happened to me twice in the last couple of weeks, where neighbours have put anonymous notes into my letterbox with their petty complaints, making me feel like an asbo. Like, oh, your dog. I have a dog. I have a cute little doggy, right? And, oh, your dog's been biting our child. Or the other one I got, and they don't come round to me, they write straight to the council that, at 2 a.m. when you're away for the weekend, your alarm goes off and keeps us awake. And then what was the other one I got anonymous? You left your handbrake of your car off and it rolled back into our lounge window. Petty things like that I just think, I'm a reasonable person. Come and knock on my door and let's talk about it. And I think it's because I live in a very posh area now. You can approach me. When I lived in Brixton, my ex-husband and I were having a furious row at 2 a.m, and the woman downstairs came up and she said, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna kill you. And that is the way that makes me feel
neighbourly.
You've come to my door, you've treated me like a human being, you've said what's wrong, and I've rectified the situation.
That sounds like brilliant marriage guidance counselling as well. Like just literally people who come round and go, I am going to kill you.
Yeah.
Shut up. And suddenly the person you're lumbered with seems okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So David, you despise the Orange Cinema adverts and people's enjoyment, it sounds to me. Just general enjoyment. You don't like people enjoying themselves in the cinema.
No. I just worry about their sanity if they enjoy that, and I want to help them.
Okay, so it's a humanitarian sort of intervention. Lee, you are angry that some people have the temerity to think sex can be fun.
I'll go with that as a summary.
Instead of the disgusting chore it obviously is. And
I'll
Shappy,
go with that as well.
And Shappy, you're alarmed by fear of our neighbours. I'm going to give a point to Lee, I think, because I admire your sort of. It's just good that you can sit here and admit you're a mess.
Thank you very much.
And now to our final round, in which I'll be asking my guests a series of quick-fire questions. As always, the wrongest answer to each one wins a point. What is the worst idea for an Olympic sport?
Spanner. It's like hammer, but you throw a spanner.
That's a pretty good idea.
Good idea, and you don't bother with all the twizzing round nonsense, you just chuck a spanner.
But you can't relate to the hammer event when you watch it, because you think, it's not even a hammer, is it? It's a ball and
Exactly.
You couldn't knock a nail in with that thing.
You could.
You can't relate to it.
You could, that should be the sport. Knock a nail in the wall with one of those hammers.
That's two brilliant sports you've brought up.
I think if the Olympics are going to be here, we should have events that we are good at. We should have binge drinking, the 4x400 margaritas, for example. I'd like to see performance-enhancing drugs compulsory. That's what I like. I want to see a 3-second 100-metre before I die.
I'd just like to see them have to bake and eat a gingerbread man on LSD. I would just watch that. That would be the most confusing sport. So I think that I like the idea of having to take performance-enhancing drugs. So I think a point to David. What's the worst title for a self-help book?
I'd like to write one called Slap Yourself Happy.
How does that work?
I don't know, I just think that if things aren't going your own way, do you ever get those times when you just sit at home and just hit yourself?
Now that is fun.
And if you get really good at it, you can use objects and just slap yourself. It's really fun.
Are you having a breakdown?
I think the worst title for a self-help book would be Help Yourself, because then that would encourage shoplifting.
I'd like to bring one out for these sort of spiritual people, and I'm going to call it Karma is really spelt L-U-C-K.
I have to say, I think that deserves the point. Well done, Chappie. That noise means we've reached the end of the show, making Lee Mack this week's worst contestant. Congratulations, Lee, you're officially so wrong you're right. Commiserations to David Schneider and Shappy Khorsandi. Now go away!
So Wrong It's Right was hosted by Charlie Brooker with guests Lee Mack, Shappy Khorsandi and David Schneider. The producer was Aled Evans and it was a Zeppatron production for BBC Radio.
Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker, and welcome to So Wrong It's Right. This is a panel show that stares ugly malfunction in the face, just like my bathroom mirror. They say failure is not an option, which is true, unless you're filling out a questionnaire on popular opinions of Nick Clegg, in which case it's the option between idiot and Judas. No one's perfect. Anyone is capable of human error, apart from Piers Morgan, obviously, who makes mistakes on behalf of whatever life form he's supposed to represent. I think it's some form of possessed poultry. They say we feel happier if we surround ourselves with failure, and I couldn't be happier to introduce tonight's guests. Comic Josie Long, comic writer Dan Meyer, and comic reader Frank Skinner. The first round is called Wrong Time, Wrong Place. It's an autobiographical round in which I'll be asking my guests to mine their pasts in a bid to outwrong each other with stories from their own disgusting and rather meaningless little lives. I don't want to judge, but I have. This week I've asked them to tell me about the worst thing that's ever happened to them in public. Now, according to surveys, lots of people are terrified of public speaking. I know how they feel. I can't bear the public speaking, or even just looking at me. Which is why I'm faintly disgusted even now. There are things we do in private that we'd never do in public. I let my emotions out. I cry, I talk to myself, and sometimes I even walk around naked. But in private, I just stare at the walls. Frank Skinner, what is the worst thing that's happened to you in public?
Well, it was actually before I became, what I'll say for the purposes of this show, is a public figure. I was waiting for a boss in Birmingham, and I'd recently had to start wearing glasses. Little tiny round National Health glasses. I had an orange hat that I'd bought on a day trip to a Rill, on a flight to Fancy. I had a beard in those days as well, so picture me if you can. And I got on the bus, and it was very crowded, and then at the next stop, a woman got on with two small children in school uniforms from the local posh school, public school that was there. And they came and sat by me, and she sat at the front. And I was chewing gum. Stick with this. And one of them said to me, "What have you got in your mouth?" And I said, "Well, I'm chewing gum." And he said, "Could I have some?" And I said, "Well, your mummy might not like you having chewing gum, so no." And he said, "Mummy," and called the whole length of the bus. And she said, "Yes, dear." And he said, "Could I have some chewing gum?" And she said, "I don't have any, dear." And he said, "This man says he'll give us some." And everyone on the bus looked round, and a muttering went off, the tone of which I can only describe as accusatory. And I actually got off at the next stop, even though it was about 2 miles from my house.
Did you? I mean, did you try and disguise yourself immediately, ripping clumps of beard off at the next stop?
Well, the trouble is, once you've got a hat, glasses and a beard, disguise doesn't really seem like an option.
Your Honour is the case for the defence.
Yeah.
Well, that's a fairly harrowing tale. Josie Long, what's the most appalling thing that's occurred to you in public?
See, mine doesn't seem as bad now. It's just, when I was 12, I called my biology teacher.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say I was on a bus and this guy offered me some chewing gum.
Yeah, offered me some chewing gum. No, when I was 12, I called my biology teacher ma chérie, like the French for my darling, in a class.
Why?
Because there was sort of some discussion going on where they were talking about like French pet names that people had, and I got it confused with mon chou, which means like my cabbage, which is less...
Well, that would have made a lot more sense.
Yeah, well, that would have been less embarrassing, but it looked like I was being all kind of coquettish. And then for 6 years afterwards, people would kind of allude to it.
What, like she's the one who likes the biology teacher?
So that was pretty bad.
What was the immediate aftermath? How did the teacher handle it? Did he diffuse the anxiety?
No.
Oh, well.
We went out for 4 years. No.
What, you just left the class there waiting?
It is embarrassing when you accidentally use a term like that. I remember going to, when I was a student, one of my friend's mothers held a sort of summer garden party. And I went along to it, and I'm just a bit socially awkward. I didn't know quite what to say at the end. To say goodbye, do I just sort of peck her on the cheek? Do I shake her hand? I didn't know what to do. All I knew I had to say was that the food was delicious and give her some sort of, affectionate goodbye. And what I ended up doing was I accidentally kissed her on the mouth and said, delicious.
And ended up going out with her for 4 years.
And then I had to get in the car with my friends who were all going, what the hell? What are you doing? So I can share your pain with that. Dan, what's your catastrophe?
It's going back to when I was about 16 or 17. I was in Newcastle town centre. That's not it. There's more. And I had an epileptic fit. Right, I know, it's comedy platinum already, isn't it? I had suffered with epilepsy during my teenage years, right? This was kind of the last one that it turned out that I ever had. And I came to, lying on a street corner in the middle of Newcastle, looked up and there's kind of a ring of faces looking down at me, and I just felt really embarrassed. Now, obviously, epilepsy itself, that's fine. There shouldn't be any stigma attached to that. I'm not suggesting anyone should be embarrassed about that. It's fine. But unfortunately, one of the sort of strange effects having the seizures had on me was that for sort of 15 or 20 minutes afterwards, I couldn't speak. The connection between my brain and my mouth was scrambled. So my brain was working fine, but no words would come out of my mouth. So it's kind of like the opposite of being Jeremy Kyle, if you can imagine that.
It's sort of like being on a date.
What's coming out of my mouth is... And then I heard a lad saying, "Oh, I reckon he goes to our school." I thought, oh great, that's really what... Because obviously schoolboys are the most empathetic of all peer groups. And I thought, this really can't get any worse. It did, though, because somebody called an ambulance. They take me to the hospital, and then the topper is that, unfortunately, the place where I'd actually had the seizure was about 100 metres away from the hospital. So it was like the most pathetic ambulance journey. It's a bit like when you get in a taxi, and you go just not far enough to have justified getting a taxi, but with sirens. So that's still, I still carry the scars from that afternoon.
I think the amazing thing about that is that someone incomprehensible lying on a pavement in Newcastle still gathers a crowd.
I think it's because I was wearing a coat.
That'll have them pointing every time.
Now, that's a poignant story, isn't it? That just blows your two stories out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit unfair. I think Dan's played his epilepsy card.
Well, I would say that of those tales, Dan has played the epileptic card cynically.
I feel a bit dirty now and soiled.
Yeah, disgusting. It's a point to you. You cheat. Our next round is called Do Your Worst, in which I'll be asking each of my guests to pitch me an awful idea of their own conception. This week, I've asked them to come up with a terrible idea for a chain of shops. Celebrity chefs can earn a fortune by letting a big chain supermarket use their face. Waitrose use Delia Smith's face, Sainsbury's use Jamie Oliver's face, and by the looks of it, Morrison's use Gordon Ramsay's face to mop up shattered jam jars in aisle 5. Josie Long, what's your idea for a terrible chain of shops?
The idea that I had is called reverse Argos. Basically, you show up with a thing that you already have that you do use and need, like a mop. Just, anything you buy in Argos.
An orange hat.
Sure. Right, you show up with that, and then you have to queue for about 45 minutes at a kind of booth that leads to the warehouse. And you give it to a person, and they give you a little chit. And then you have to queue for about half an hour to go to a cashier where you feed your chit into a machine, and then you have to go to a catalogue where you look at... It's just reversed. And then at the end, you have nothing, and you've spent 3 hours queuing. And it's even worse than that, because you no longer have an item that you did use and need.
Why would anyone... The brief was come up with the worst idea for a chain of shops. I mean, the only thing worse than that is a shop that punches you in the face.
My one could do that as well.
What's so bad, though? It's quite a nice... It's a nice concept, isn't it? It's good.
Yeah, I always think of Argos as the Chav Library. None of those people, that's the only books they ever handle.
I quite like the experience of going into it. It's mainly because the first time I went in, sometimes they got some items on display, and genuinely I went in and saw Brian May from Queen looking at...
What, on display?
Yeah.
Page 738 in the catalogue.
No,
Members of Queen.
He was handling hairdryers. You know when hairdryers got those big diffuser things? He was genuinely standing. It was like he was on a display. I was so impressed that I saw Brian May doing something you wouldn't imagine he'd have done on Spitting Image.
Yeah, I like the bit where you sit in the plastic seating and really, you really stare at the people behind the counter. It's like very, very poor theatre. And they can get quite self-conscious, especially when you don't get up for your thing when it comes, because your mind's been taken by these people.
Okay, so Dan, what's your idea?
I like these, the cash for gold concessions that you sort of get in shopping malls and things. I think that's quite a good model. So built on that, I am proposing cash for kids, where you turn your unwanted kids into cash. It's basically as simple as that. Because everybody's got one they don't really need, haven't they? Lying around the house somewhere. I think that would...
So do you take them into a shopping mall, or do you just post them in a sort of...
I think you could possibly stick them in a jiffy bag, but possibly a chain of shops. And I think it would be done on the same basis as the gold, which is that they're priced by weight. So you can kind of fatten them up for market, in a sense.
Okay, now, I can understand that the concept behind cash for gold is that gold is just about the only thing that's retaining its value. What's the value of children?
I don't know, scrap value? There must be some. Melt them down? I haven't really... Or possibly just employ them in more branches, more franchises of cash for kids. So it's a strange sort of pyramid scheme, which just carries on growing virally.
So
without ever being financially viable. Yeah.
Right, okay. So...
Aren't you basically talking about lazy surrogacy? Where people have the children and then find the buyer later?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought of it like that. There may be oversupply, actually, on that basis, mightn't there?
Is there a cut-off point? Could you just give them cash for people? I mean, could you just lead confused people there and just dress as a young boy?
There's obviously got to be some legal parameters. You've got to prove ownership, I think. At least.
This is a monstrous and ill-thought-out scheme. It's just basically people farming or something. What do? Do you make them clean chimneys? What sort of possible motive do you have for collecting this many children, you animal?
That's not my part of the business.
This sounds like a Madonna interview, doesn't it? That would have been the perfect question in a Madonna interview.
Frank, Mr. Frank Skinner, what's your idea for a terrible chain of shops?
Well, I'm thinking mine's starting to sound quite sweet. I was in Odd Bins, and it struck me that I don't like this way that alcohol says things like, please drink wisely, and stuff like that. I find it very hypocritical. So I thought I could have a shop called Odd Binge, which acknowledges the fact that binge drinking is a very, very popular thing. So I'd obviously have cut-price alcohol. I mean, really cut-price. I mean, some free stuff. Yeah. to good customers. And then a whole load of accessories for the binge drinker. I was thinking you could hire out guide dogs for the blind drunk.
It's just goods for very, very drunk people.
Yeah,
so the
guide dogs would take them home. They'd drag them, if absolutely necessary. And then I had this idea for sort of heavy-duty 5-inch false eyelashes so that women don't break their noses when they fall flat on their faces.
What, they're sort of falling
they'd stop you going all the way, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You could make recordings of, someone going whoa, 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 for if they were particularly shy, but they wanted to live the part, just play it behind them.
Yeah.
And they just have to, mime.
Yeah. What, a shirt for shy drunks that shouts abuse on your behalf? I remember getting drunk once and just shopping online and ordering books I didn't want. And so it was like they'd turn up, it was like a drunk Santa had come a few days later. Just brought me sort of books I just didn't have any, the history of the helicopter or something like this that struck me as interesting at 2 a.m. And so I think you could just sell painted eggs to drunks, couldn't you?
Maybe the secret is free drink and then expensive other stuff.
Yeah, just stuff that looks useful, sort of a funny hat or an orange hat, maybe.
Yeah. Come to think of it, that's where I got that hat.
I wonder if there's a spin-off of that, of doing a kind of drunks dress hire shop. I'm always impressed by the drunks that are sort of on a green at about 10 o'clock in the morning, suit and tie. think, well, maybe there should be somewhere for them.
No, I think what you've got
business.
there, I've always thought this, that tramps don't start off looking like tramps. There is a period where they're quite smartly dressed and clean.
Debonair.
And if you see one then, you think exactly that. You think, what is that rather smartly dressed man doing, living such a lifestyle? But he's just in training. He's an apprentice.
Okay, so, well, of your schemes, Josie, you had reverse Argos. Which
it's looking better now, isn't it? Looking more
frankly, yes, in retrospect, now it's a work of genius. Dan, your monstrous cash for children kind of policy, and Frank, odd binge. I'm going to give the points to Frank for odd binge. Okay, moving on. This round is called This Putrid Modern Hell. I'll be asking each of my guests to nominate the thing they hate most about modern life. By modern, I mean any point after the advent of John Barrowman. Very much what I like to think of as the post-Barrowman era. My favourite answer wins a point. Language has changed a lot in modern times. If a 19th century farmer turned up today, you'd have to explain that an orange is now for making calls on, a BlackBerry is for emails, and an apple is for pretending to write a screenplay on in Starbucks. The vision of the future as promised in the movies has never really materialised. The closest we've got to robots we can make love to is trying to plug a USB stick in the dark. And that is quite sexual, actually, when you're doing that. And as for Back to the Future, it is! It's as tender as I get. And as for Back to the Future, the closest we've got to travelling through time is watching Back to the Future on ITV2+1. Which is genuinely a confusing experience. Technology has transformed entertainment. I used to have a tiny 14-inch screen on which I watched darts. Now I've got a 42-inch HD LED 3D TV with an integrated Blu-ray player, 7-speaker surround sound and a subwoofer on which I watch darts. Dan, what annoys you most about the modern world?
Calorific information on food packaging. I try and watch my weight a bit, right? And supermarkets want to make it as confusing and difficult as possible, right? You know, you get food packaging and it has a little wheel on which has calories, salt, sugar, fat. So you pick up a microwave meal and say, ooh, calories 360 or something. Fair enough. I'll have that for my tea. Then you get it home and then you see the small print that says, a third of a pack contains. That's purely there to trick me. So not only is it misleading, it's also slightly judgmental. I think it's a nice spaghetti carbonara. What's that? 480 calories. Oh, that's fine. Then I'll see a half a pack contains. Right, and the subtext of that is, of course, well, you're obviously not going to eat the whole thing. What human being could possibly consume this whole packet? You fat sod. I found one a couple of days ago. I had a look. The first thing I picked up when I went to the supermarket was onion bargies. Right, a little thing of 6 onion bargies. Right, sort of golf ball size. It said 180 calories. And again, I thought, oh, great. And then I saw 2 bargies contain. Why? How do they know I'm inviting 2 pals around for a bargie party? Only 2 each, lads. Let's not go crazy. It's infuriating.
See, I see it as a chance for some on-the-spot maths. And that's really exciting to me. Like, I really enjoy that. Like, if you get a thing of figs and it will say 200 grams, a serving, 20 grams, contains this many calories, and you're thinking, well, I'm going to have to find out what a tenth of this pack is, and then multiply that by the ratio that I think I would eat, and then...
Yeah, you see, I've left school. I'm grown up now and can go shopping on my own and don't have to worry about maths.
You made it sound like a round-on countdown. My tip for losing weight, well, I don't have any great tips for losing weight, but I would say...
Will this be on your new DVD?
Yeah. My tip for losing weight is just, I've had this idea that I do want to genuinely bring out, which is just plates with harrowing scenes printed on them. So, the more you eat, the more of the harrowing scene. And your appetite will die away.
Photographs of shut-ins.
Yeah, just photographs of terrible, terrible events from world history that you feel a bit bad for eating off. Who would buy that? See, that's 8 people.
The trouble is with that is if you were eating steak tartare, you wouldn't know when you'd got down to the horrible scene.
Sticking with you, Frank. Sticking with you. What is... What is the thing that appalls you most about modernity in general?
Well, I really hate, and this is not something I've had to make up for comic effect, it's completely from the heart, I really hate that luggage on wheels. I very much believe if you can't carry it, don't pack it. And I think it ceases to be luggage when you put wheels on it. It becomes a vehicle. And I don't think you should be allowed to take a vehicle onto a plane.
But hang on a minute. I just think you're being unreasonable, because it took mankind quite a long time to sort of come up with the idea of wheels on luggage.
Yeah, why do you think that was? Why did we go for centuries with suitcases without wheels? Why is it only now?
Because we had
they've turned
valets.
up? No, I don't think most people did they?
What's so bad about what's wrong with?
Well, I'll give you an impression. Man walking behind you, carrying a suitcase. Okay. Okay, man behind you with suitcase on wheels.
What, is he beatboxing?
I hate it. At first I thought, well, maybe they've had to carry so much stuff that they've had to put wheels on that. It's uncarryable. But then you see little tiny things on wheels. And it's not about the weight anymore. It's just about the wheels. It's the most important. And people are so proud that there's a telescopic handle on it. They stand there and go, look, no handle, quite long handle. Where did that come from? Like it's a clown pulling a bunch of flowers out of his pocket.
You introduced all of that by saying you genuinely hate this. That's a lot of hate to carry around for something so innocuous, I would have thought.
Well, at least I'm carrying it around. I don't have it on wheels.
I find this... I just think you're intolerant. I'm disgusted by your intolerance.
Can I just establish that I've been called intolerant by Charlie Brooker? That's quite a moment.
Well, I quite like the sound they make. I like that rumbling.
No, you can't possibly like that sound.
It's like really good. If you're walking and you speed up your walking, it gets higher pitched. And then, so you can have like a little fun.
No, what? Different surfaces. You get different sounds from different surfaces.
Oh,
well.
what you people need
cobbles to
you need a dog. People just pull one of the little suitcase around instead of a lovely warm companion.
You can't make your dog eat all of your holiday clothes.
Do you know what? I can't stop him.
I quite like... There should be a sort of ramp in the airport where you can just climb on top of your luggage and just wheel yourself along on it. That's what I've always wanted to do.
That's what children do. You know, the children's...
Isn't that a Segway? I think that's already been invented, isn't it? Can I say I was driving over Lambeth Bridge in London, a large conurbation in the southeast of England. And I saw a man on a Segway coming over the bridge, and I thought to myself, how big a prat is it possible to look than this bloke? And when he got very close, it was Lembit Opik.
So Frank, you're disgusted by the concept of wheeled luggage. Josie, what annoys you most about the modern world?
The thing that I really hate is the fact that you can comment on things on the internet. I can't remember who described it as the bottom half of the internet, but somebody described it thus. But it's like... Nothing is allowed any window of joy. Like, you go on YouTube and someone puts up a picture of their cat and it's called My Beautiful Cat, and then all the comments are like, this cat should die! I hate this cat! Oh, typical Zionist cat! Like, that kind of thing. And you just think, like, paint your bathroom. Like, buy a harmonica, or just do anything, but this is not the forum you think it is. Like, I think people think of the word forum and they think of, like, classical history where people would kind of sit debating important things, and that is not what internet forums are. They're like magnets.
Ancient Rome was exactly like that.
People be like, shut up! I will find your house!
I bet it was. I think we're only left with the greatest hits from the Roman Forum, but there's a lot of rubbish that got cut out.
Well, so it's just the fact that it's just unfettered negativity, because
Yeah.
you've made it sound appealing to me.
Can I say that I agree with that, because this is absolutely true. Last week someone said to me, there's a really nice thing about you on one of the Guardian blogs, and I never read reviews. And they said, no, honestly, it's wholly positive. And I went to it, and it was nice. And I just accidentally scrolled down a bit, and the first comment said I couldn't disagree more. And it ruined the whole thing for me.
Oh. You know what I'm going to say? I'm going to give the point to Josie. And so, in our final round, I'll be asking my guests a series of quick-fire questions. As ever, the wrongest answer to each one wins a point. So we'll start with, what is the worst way to answer a phone call?
Going, bye then.
That's quite sweet.
It's the opposite of what you say when you pick up the phone.
I like it when the phone goes off mid-conversation and someone phones me back, they always say, I don't know what happened then. And I always say, well, how could you? In order to know what happened then, you'd need some sort of access to the whole network. You'd need to be in front of some massive blue computer screen pointing out the best locations for We'll never know what happened then. Get over it. I have done that about 10 times. Can I say it went a lot better here than it ever goes on the phone.
I like it when you witness somebody else's phone call getting cut off, like somebody going into a tunnel or something on a train, and then they have to sort of style it out slightly to not look embarrassed at the other. Yeah. Because they'll do about 5 seconds of talking where you realise there's nobody else on the other end of the line. And then they don't want anybody else to see, so it's just, they try and get a soft landing out of it somehow.
You've been in public having a conversation with somebody on the phone, like a bit of an argument, and you're trying not to let the people in public know that you're having an argument, and they hang up on you, and you continue to hold a conversation with the air. Have you ever done that?
No.
I've done that and said, okay, well, I'm glad that's all cleared up. No. Okay, yeah, I love you too. See you later. No, you hang up. No, you hang up. Sometimes it goes on for hours. I was doing that once, and then the phone rang while I was on, which was utterly humiliating. I think, Frank, you get a point for that. And that noise means we've reached the end of the show. What a tragedy. Frank has won. Oh. Congratulations, Frank. Commiserations to the rest of you. That's all for tonight. Now go away.
Well, now you can hear the last in the series of the comedy show that seeks the finest wrong answers.
Hello, I'm Charlie Brooker, and welcome to So Wrong It's Right, a panel show celebrating errors, inappropriateness and failure. Jeffrey Archer once wrote, the secret of success is never believing you are successful. So that's one thing I've got in common with Jeffrey Archer. I can't believe he's successful either. This show is all about admitting mistakes, and the bloke on the door admitted 3 huge ones tonight in the shape of Lee Mack, Sarah Millican and Graham Linehan. This first round is called Wrong Time, Wrong Place, and I'll be asking my guests to out-wrong each other with stories from their own miserable pasts. This week, I've asked them to recount the worst thing that's happened to them when they've been on their own. Oscar Wilde said he never felt more alone than when he was in a crowd, but that was before he was put in solitary confinement. Might have swung his judgment. It can be fascinating to see what celebrities do when they think absolutely no one's watching. Brad Pitt picks his nose, Cheryl Cole swears like a trooper, and Adrian Chiles says good morning and welcome to daybreak. Lee Mack, what is the worst thing that's happened to you when you've been on your own?
I once hid in a cupboard from Anthea Turner. And that, Sonny, is all you're getting. I don't elaborate on my anecdotes. I was actually, the truth is, when you start off doing comedy, and I have started, you often do television warm-ups. It's hard, really hard work. In fact, it's probably the hardest thing to do. Well, not, it's not.
It's harder
Chilean
than mine.
miners would probably argue with that. But I would argue back and say, you're wrong, it's harder than that. But basically, I was a warm-up man on a TV show in the mid-90s called Pet Power, which Anthea Turner used to present. And it was about Anthea Turner sitting on a sofa and bringing on pets who could perform various powers and tricks. You can imagine. I can't believe it didn't get recommissioned.
Performing powers?
Well, not powers, but I mean, they didn't fly. Well, they did, because some of them were birds. But they didn't have, they didn't breathe ice, or whatever superheroes do.
Animals don't have powers, they have characteristics.
Listen, I didn't create the format. Have a word with Anthea. It was called Pet Power. It wasn't called Pets. That would have been even duller. And now a dog. And the dog just comes on and goes, and then walks off again. Actually, it probably would have been more interesting. But, so basically, Pet Power and they'd come on and they'd have interesting story, usually end with the bit, where the hamster saved the child from drowning, everyone would cry. It's a bloody awful show. And, I was the warm-up man, and I was so nervous and new to the job. I came on and I did my 10 minutes, and they said, don't worry, it's the kind of show, once you've been on, you never have to go back on again, unless it's an emergency. So I went up and I watched it on the monitor in the dressing room, and Anthea had a budgie on her finger that was supposed to do something, like a backflip or whatever they do. And instead of doing the trick, it flew up into the rafters of the studios. And I heard someone on the floor through the monitor go, get the warm-up man back on. So I panicked and hid in the cupboard of my dressing room, and I heard this bloke banging on the door going, Lee! And I just hid, and I stayed there for about an hour and a half. And then I resurfaced, and they said, where have you been? And I went, I've just been through there having a cigarette. Did you need me? I didn't know you needed me. You told me you didn't need me for 10 minutes. Sorry, I was around. What's happened? What's happened to the budgie? They said, how do you know about the budgie? I said, all right, I'll rephrase it. What's happened?
Sarah, what's the worst thing that's happened to you when you've been alone?
There's lots of good things that have happened to me when I've been on my own. Probably the worst thing, it's not going to sound very major. I feel like this should be much worse than it is, but it was quite scary at the time. My car broke down while I was at a service station, and I broke down sort of in the middle of the road. And first thing I did, stupidly, rang my boyfriend and said, should I ring the RAC? Because I'm a feminist. And he said, yes. So I rang the RAC, and the lady said, are you all right? Well, I had a book, a cardi and a sandwich, so I was champion, really. So that's what I said, and she said, all right, okay, well, we'll put you further down the list. So I thought, well, that's stupid, isn't it? So I then said, but I am still a woman alone. In my best pensioner voice. And she said, oh, quite right, we'll pop you back up again. So I'm at the top of the list with me book and me cardi and me sandwich. It's 10 o'clock at night, but I'm under a light. I've broken down in the perfect place possible. And a car pulls up alongside me with 4 or 5 young men in, and they scream abuse at me. And it was quite scary because I couldn't lock the doors because it was an electrical fault. So they shouted at me, why have you parked there, you stupid cow? And I decided that the best approach to not be attacked was just to shout back. So I shouted back, I haven't parked here, you stupid bee. I've broken down. So they were quite happy with me being a bit loud, and off they went. And then the same thing happened again, different boys, different car, but exactly the same thing happened again. So by now I'm getting really irate and quite aggressive, and a lorry pulled up, and I thought, oh, for God's sake. So I just got out the car and started pacing towards this tank of a man who's got out of the lorry, and I started going, what? What? And he said, do you want us to push you out the way, love? Oh, if you could, that would be lovely, thank you very much.
So did he literally push you out of the way?
Not me.
Oh, I see.
In the car.
Never say yes to a man who says, do you want me to push you out of the way? You're asking for trouble, aren't you?
Because the first thing I was worried about was what if he couldn't push it, because it was only a little car, but I'm, a relatively sturdy woman. So I told him that I was transporting some bricks for a friend.
So, Graham, what is the worst thing that's happened to you when you've been on your own?
Well,
I nearly drowned. That's one thing. I was a little boy. I was a little kid, and
That's harrowing.
Yeah, you said the worst thing.
Can I just say, I thought it was supposed to be like a funny thing as well as being a bad thing.
Yeah, but this is funny. I got funny bits. I haven't finished. What happened was I was swimming and I was enjoying it, and there were lots of people about. So I wasn't really on my own, but I was sort of on my own in a way.
Psychologically alone.
Well, no. Yeah, psychologically alone, because there were all these girls around, and I couldn't speak to them, and boys who were much kind of cooler than me, and I couldn't speak to them either.
Do you understand what alone means?
Yeah. No, I was alone in the adolescent sense, feeling kind of lonely. Believe me, it pays off, Charlie.
Okay.
This is a tough show. Anyway, I kind of went under the water, and there was a kind of undertow, and when I stuck my head up, the beach was miles away. I mean, miles away. And I was suddenly, literally, on my own, So I had a few moments of thinking, oh, well, I'll just try and swim back. And I couldn't. And I was swimming, and the water was, you can see everyone's quiet, because everyone's thinking, wow, there could have been no Father Ted. So I was really tired, and I suddenly realised that I was going to have to shout help. And the thing about shouting help is that when you have to do it, it seems really cliched. Do you know what I mean? And I always hated being obvious, Do you know what I mean? So I had to do little variations, Ooh, I need help. could you use some help, And then finally no one was paying attention to that because it didn't sound dramatic enough. So I had to kind of go, help! Like that. And I couldn't do it. I wasn't a good enough actor, And I really was drowning. I went under once,
But you felt ashamed of shouting help.
Yeah. It's really weird.
That's a lot of Irish guilt, isn't it?
No, the other thing I did on my own, which is one of those kind of embarrassing things, which I prefer as a thing to do, because it involves me not dying. I was in a hotel, and I set off a shower alarm. I had a shower, and, feeling quite relaxed, and I turned it to the left, because it was too hot or something, and an alarm went off. And I thought, what have I done, And it just kept going. And I thought, I don't know how to, and I was messing with it for ages and ages. And then finally I got out of the shower, went into the room, and rang up reception, and there was no one there. About half an hour passed with this alarm just going off, and I thought, what the hell? And finally there was a knock at the door, and someone said, what are you doing? And I said, what? And he said, there's a fire. And all of it was I had just coincidentally turned the thing at the very moment the alarm went off.
So, Lee Mack, you hid in a cupboard from Anthea Turner. Sarah, you broke down on the motorway and were heckled by passers-by. And Graham, you were sort of ashamed to cry for help. Well, I think the point's going to go to Graham. Well done, Graham. Now, our next round is called Do Your Worst, in which I'll be asking my guests to pitch me a terrible idea. This week, I've asked them to dream up an awful game show format. Some of Britain's most popular game shows revolve around something inherently simple. Vernon Kay. Not really fair. Game shows don't have to be complex. Deal or No Deal, for instance, famously poses just one question. How much longer till Come Dine With Me is on? So, Sarah Millican, what is your rubbish game show idea?
It's called Take Me Out. And it's intelligent ITV audience members compete to shoot Paddy McGuinness in the head. No likey, no lifey.
You are applauding the murder of a blameless man. No matter what, well, maybe not blameless, but I mean, surely he doesn't deserve to be shot.
I like the bits to do at the beginning. Let the plum see the jam.
Like when they showed the video clip of the man, and there was one where they showed it, and he said that he was a part-time model, and all the girls kept their lights on. And then he said, "Oh, but that's just part-time. My real job is an architect." And 8 women went like that.
Not interested. It's just drawing.
I don't want a man who knows how walls work.
It'll be all Doric columns, this.
Imagine if human civilization was wiped out tomorrow and the only surviving artefact was a recording of Take Me Out. We would be viewed as lower than, I don't know, mice, I think, in the grand scheme of things. But for someone who professes to...
To be fair, mice can't do a show like that. It does require a lot of preparation and a lot of... You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Big cameras.
Let the mouse see the hole.
That sounds horrific. But for someone who professes to... I mean, I don't want to cast a... You sound like you're not a fan of Take Me Out, but you seem to have watched more than one episode.
Just for research purposes. No, it's one of those things that I quite like to watch because I like to feel smug about not liking. You must identify with this, Charlie.
I'm not above it. Yeah. I mean, it's a very successful game show.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of, women who haven't been invited out with their slaggy friends that night, so they watch... They watch the telly programme and feel like they're in a nightclub.
Well, I mean, it's a special kind of show to make Blind Date look like the halcyon days of broadcasting.
So, Sarah, your idea is a fatal take on Take Me Out. Graham, Mr. Graham Linehan, tell us all about your terrible...
I got a few. Scrabble 2000.
Already excited.
Yeah? Yeah. Futuristic Scrabble, set in the future.
Did you come up with that idea when you were drowning?
Yeah, flashed in front of my eyes. Thought you can have it.
Okay, so Scrabble 2000.
No. Okay, yeah. How many keys?
I'm intrigued.
Just, you've got a lot of them, and you... I don't know, there's a few questions about format. They could be in a dusty jar. Or on a key ring, which might be a bit more exciting, because they jangle, and that'll be... There could be a moment where it jing, 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 and goes, how many keys? Could be radio. Because the jangling of the keys will give you some clue as to how many there are.
This is a brilliant idea.
I'm not finished.
He hasn't told you about how many keys 2000 yet. That one's set in the future.
But I think I've got a killer one. I think I've got a really good one, which is Through the Keyhole, but it's for serial killers. It's like Serial Killer Holmes. What was the guy who did Through the Keyhole?
Lloyd Grossman.
Lloyd Grossman, yeah.
That was the worst impression.
That was an impression. But what's good about the show, what's kind of exciting, is that halfway through his description, the guy comes home. And we see him on kind of security cameras opening the door and stuff. And then the people in the studio are, Lloyd, he's coming home. And then Lloyd goes, oh no. And he runs to a closet and closes the closet, and we've got a little tiny camera in with him. And I always think Lloyd Grossman's probably a nose breather. So you hear this really kind of... as the guy walks back and forth outside the closet, I thought I left this straight razor over there and stuff. And that's it. And so half of it is kind of what kind of serial killer it is, but the other half is a very, very frightening race against time to save Lloyd.
That's an amazing idea for a That's astonishing. Mr. Lee Mack.
If I had a similar idea to Graham's, it was going to be Through the Keyhole thing, where you see them coming back and you hide in the cupboard, but mine was set in Anthea Turner's house. I can't now do that.
That's actually more frightening.
That would be more terrifying. and Lloyd Grossman would go, oh no! He's the Mrs. Anthea Turner! Which I think you'll find is genuinely the most accurate impression so far this evening.
the most accurate one we'll get tonight.
So my idea is, I'm a celebrity animal, get me out of here. And what you do is you get various celebrity animals like Lassie or Wallace or Gromit, I can never remember which is which, Cheetah, Skippy, the bush kangaroo, and they have to do a series of bush tucker trials where they have to eat the anus of Christopher Biggins. Or even worse, if they lose, they have to eat the food from Iceland that he advertises. It doesn't have to be Biggins, it could be anything, and you get different animals to come on and get their revenge on the humans.
I'd watch them fight. I'd watch celebrity animals fight to the death.
Oh. A kangaroo against Wallace and Gromit? Come on, it's an unfair fight.
Gromit isn't real.
Wallace is, you weirdo.
Gromit would be the most boring guest on a reality show because he just moves his arm incrementally. Somebody has to come in and move it for him once every 3 minutes.
Peter Andre when he was on Amazon.
That's a very good point. So, Sarah, you have suggested a fateful take on Take Me Out. Graham, you suggested an entire raft of ideas from Scrabble 2000 to Through the Keyhole with Serial Killers. And Lee, you suggested I'm a Celebrity Animal, Get Me Out of Here. I think the winner has to be Graham's Through the Keyhole with Serial Killers. It must happen. It must happen. Okay, this round is called This Putrid Modern Hell. In it, I'll be asking my guests to tell me about their biggest pet hate from the modern world, and my favourite answer wins a point. Modern technology is destroying our ability to concentrate. In fact, the government is so concerned about our shortening attention spans, they've commissioned a team of scientists to carry out a 5-minute study and text them the results during the ad break in Hollyoaks. Plastic surgery. Plastic surgery is a modern phenomenon which has become incredibly commonplace. These days, if you accuse someone of having Botox, they won't bat an eyelid. Sometimes for months. Graham Linehan, what annoys you most about the modern world?
Well, I kind of love it. I kind of love everything that's happening now.
You think 2000 is futuristic?
Yeah. Well, imagine 2000. But I guess if I had to pick something...
Which you do.
I hate the way they ramp up the volume in ads when it's during an ad break. I find that aggressive and evil. And I think it should be banned. In all seriousness. The amount of times I've kind of turned down the sound because an ad's come on, and then you watch the next few minutes of the programme thinking, why can't we suddenly not hear anything? And you're, right, we have to do that. You're constantly just messing with the control, and all you want to do is relax. People are busy. People have tough lives. I don't, but people do. Actually, two things. Remote controls are such a pain.
Why? They're impossible.
Well, have you ever seen remote controls? It's like an airplane cockpit.
I like that.
How could you like that?
I like it when they've got like a joystick and a mouse. It's me versus the machine.
Do you know what? This is true. We had a babysitter come on. We got 5 remote controls to watch normal telly, because you have to go through all the different systems. And I wrote a 5-page document to the new babysitter. And as we went out and we were travelling, I talked her through it for about 25 minutes. And as we were driving off, she rang up and said, so what are your kids called?
Mr. Lee Mack, what's your biggest modern gripe?
Well, last time I came on the show and you asked me this question, I recall we had a rather calm debate about Twitter, and I said that I didn't like Twitter, and I realised, I think anyway, that tonight all 3 of you are on Twitter. So we'll leave that one well alone. And instead...
See how we've outnumbered you now?
Yes, exactly. It's like malaria, it spreads. And I also don't like this thing that everything's got to be reviewed. For example, I bought some kettle descaler on eBay for £2.50. Oh yeah, girls. And I got a slightly, I wouldn't say threatening message, but he wasn't happy that I hadn't reviewed the purchase. Now, it was £2.50, and it was a kettle descaler. I thought that was the end of the friendship. Turns out I've got to make a review. I've got to tell him how the purchase went. You even have to review the reviews. I've looked at a review of myself online that said it was the most disgusting hour I've spent in my life. I'd never want to see this hideous bloke ever again. He was boring. And then it said, what did you think of this review? How would you review it? Oh, I found it quite painful, actually. Is that an option?
And that was just a dating site.
Genuinely though, it won't be long until everyone who's registered on Facebook or anywhere has a review attached to them. You can't go on holiday anymore without looking up where you're going on like TripAdvisor or somewhere like that where there's people going, it was terrible, I didn't like the view, or it rained a lot, I didn't like the shape of the clouds over the bay. It's like people get furiously angry about all sorts of things, and we will all have a personal review. So if you go into a shop and you're rude to the assistant, they'll go on and write a review.
But that's fine, but that's fine if you're rude. But the problem is if it's a normal person, I buy the kettle descaler for £2.50 and it all goes to plan, right? Both parties are happy. It's not that different. If I go to the newsagent and buy a Mars bar and I walk out and then an hour later there's a knock on the door and he goes, sorry, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how do you feel it went when you... I go, well, yeah, I got it back home fine and I ate it and how did it go with you putting the money in the till? Yeah, that all went pretty fine. I said, do you want to come in? We'll become friends now and we'll discuss this, shall we? You freak.
Sarah, what do you hate most about modern life?
I stayed in a hotel and I went into the room and there was a shower but no bath.
Ooh, watch
That's already got me back up. I had a new, shower gel that I wanted to have a go of in the bath, because I, book trends sometimes, and I had a new magazine. I was all ready, you can't do that in the shower. So I rang downstairs and thought, I'm a reasonable person, it's a hotel, they'll just move me to another room, it's unlikely that it'll be that busy on a Tuesday night. And I rang down to find out that the entire hotel has no baths, but they have an Apple Mac in every room. There's no app that will allow me to sit in my own filth.
I'll tell you what, there's a Mac that'll let you sit in your own filth. But they'll discuss later.
But surely, I mean, the problem is, what's so great about a bath?
Oh my God, you let something go there.
Yeah,
no, come on. It's saving
You are a
space.
typical nerd, aren't you? The last time I was on here, 2 hours you argued how good Twitter was. What's so good about a bath?
No, but as opposed to a shower. What's so bloody great?
Well, it's not just functional. It wasn't just that I was dirty and needed to be cleaned, because you can do that with a good tongue.
It's one of the powers that animals have.
Exactly. I didn't have a dog with us. I had wet wipes, but that wasn't going to be enough. It was the relaxing side of things.
Okay, so Graham, it's ear-splitting adverts for you. For Lee, it's internet reviews, and for Sarah, it's hotels minus the baths. You know what? I'm going to, because it wasn't something that I had ever considered before, I'm going to give the point to Sarah. Okay, and now to our final round, in which I'll be asking my guests a series of quick-fire questions. As ever, the wrongest answer to each one wins a point. So, what's the worst idea for a theme park?
I got one. Oh man, can I remember? It was in Dublin. It was called...
That's enough, surely.
It's called... Yeah, no, it actually exists. It's called Printerland.
Oh yeah, they've got a franchise over here called Carpet World. Have you been to that?
Yeah.
And Legoland.
Yeah, they're really bad. The kids hate it.
Yeah.
Hate it.
I think instead of worst idea, this would be a worst idea for most people, but it would be my favourite kind of theme park, would be Safety World, where everybody just holds the bags. Because I don't do roller coasters, but I am good at holding bags while other people go and have fun.
I thought you were going to say, there is a sort of safety theme park that they take kids. It's an educational place where they stage traffic accidents in front of children. It's the sickest place. Genuinely.
Where is this?
I don't know. I mean, I imagine the drive there and back is pretty harrowing. I like the idea of that. I think I'm going to give the point to Graham for Printerland.
Hey.
What is the worst film to show as an in-flight movie?
Alive.
That's a great film. I love Alive. I can't believe that it's even a moral debate. I would have eaten those people before it landed. What's the problem? They're dead. Eat them. You're a bit peckish. Why even wait?
And they cast it with delicious people. Delicious-looking people, excuse me.
Anything that's longer than the flight. I've still not seen the end to An Eye for an Eye with Sally Field and Kiefer Sutherland. They said, now we have to turn the films off because we're going to start the descent.
I love that. That's my favourite thing.
I just wanted them to go around like another lap, maybe, so I could see who done it.
Do you ever get people applauding when a plane lands? I love that. Yay!
The worst one is when the captain comes on, interrupts the film and goes, I don't know about you, but I am glued to this film. It's brilliant. I cannot take my eyes off it. Absolutely riveting. That's the film.
I'm going to give the point to Sarah. For a film longer than the flight. What is the worst first line of a romantic novel?
Jane knew it was time to settle.
Can't beat that. That's a point to Sarah. That noise means we've reached the end of the show, making Sarah Millican this week's worst contestant. Congratulations, Sarah. You are officially so wrong, you're right. Commiserations to Lee Mack and Graham Linehan. Now go away.
So Wrong It's Right was hosted by Charlie Brooker with guests Lee Mack, Sarah Millican and Graham Linehan. The producer was Aled Evans, and it was a Zeppotron production for BBC.